that have won the first, they've won the 3 previous ODIs, they've drawn the test, they've won the series, but these matches are still important. We have got a Commonwealth Games coming up starting on Friday. England begin their campaign on Saturday, so whatever more wins they can get under their belts in the next couple of days. They've got this game today, they've got a derby on Monday, which will be live incidentally on BBC television. They will look to do a clean sweep of the T20s and of the white ball segment of this series between England and South Africa. And I'm delighted to say I am joined for the first time in this series, is that right, by Stephen Finn.
Good afternoon. It's lovely to be here, sharing the commentary box with you. It's going to be an interesting afternoon, isn't it?
Well, it could be. A lot's going to depend really on whether South Africa turn up, because they haven't really turned up for the previous 4 white ball games that we've seen, the 3 ODIs. They were fairly marmalised, and the last one at Chelmsford, they were completely obliterated, setting just 112. England chased that down with 5 overs to spare, but it's a slightly new-look England today. Heather Knight, I can give you some team news, is out with a hip injury, we've been told. I think it's just a niggle, and it's a precautionary, really, with the Commonwealth Games coming up. And who else is out? Izzy Wong is not playing. She played the other day at Chelmsford. So coming in, Freya Davis, that's sort of like for like really with Izzy Wong, and very excitingly, Alice Capsey, the 17-year-old who burst to prominence and fame last year in the 100 when she got a debut. She got a maiden 50 at Lord's in a 100 game between the Oval Invincibles and the London Spirit in that derby. She plays for the 100 champions, the Oval Invincibles, and she's got her first cap today, which was handed to her by Tash Farrant, who we'll be hearing more of later today. For South Africa, they bizarrely have an entirely unchanged lineup. And we are being joined, I'm delighted to say, by 5 Live at precisely that moment. Thank you very much, Henry Moran. I can see him in the box away to my right. So we'll be flitting around on 5 Live between the cricket, and you'll be able to listen at all times if you want to 5 Sports Extra. But if you're listening on 5 Live, we'll be in and out various other sports across this Saturday. So, what news? The toss has been won by England's stand-in skipper Nat Sciver, and England have decided to bat. Stephen Finn, that's probably what the crowd would have wanted.
I think they've decided to bowl, England.
I heard that they were going to bat.
No.
I've been given duff information. In that case, that's probably not what the crowd want to see.
No, I think if they were batting first, then maybe we could anticipate a big score, but I think going into something like the Commonwealth Games, they'll be trying to refine their game plans, and winning the toss and bowling first in T20 cricket is quite a fashionable thing to do at the moment if the wicket feels like it's not going to deteriorate, and both captains said that at the toss, that they didn't feel as though the wicket was going to deteriorate. So hopefully England will be able to restrict South Africa as they did in the last game, and knock the runs off as quick as possible.
We've got relatively short boundaries at Worcester. You often do at Worcester. They bring the boundary in quite a way, and it feels that a little bit shorter than normal. The wicket is positioned to our side, towards the Graham Hick Pavilion, if you're familiar with Worcester. The other side, from the Diglis end, so called. Well, let's get this out of the way now. People wonder about this, but the Diglis end is apparently because d'église is the French for church, and of course here in Worcester that becomes Diglis, and so that's the far end. Our end, I suppose, is, well, it's not even the river end, is it really? Not really quite sure what we could call this end. Pavilion end will do for the time being. South Africa, their batters are going out to bat while England's fielders are in the huddle, and they're doing it again. They're opening with Lara Goodall and Anneke Bosch, which to me, Stephen Finn, is a bit of a surprise when you're probably your most explosive batter, Laura Wolvaardt, is now carded to come in at 4.
Yes, it does seem strange. I think, like we spoke about, or I just spoke about on 5 Live with Henry Moran, was the fashionable thing as well at the moment in T20 cricket is to make sure that your best player faces as many balls as possible, and if that means whilst there are only two fielders allowed outside the ring, then it makes sense for them to open the batting as well, a la Joss Buttler in the England T20 men's team. So interesting move from South Africa, but maybe they want that glue in the middle order of the experience of Laura Wolvaardt to try and marshal the troops to a score that's defendable.
Katherine Brunt is going to open the bowling from the Diglis end, and she's currently on 102 T20 international wickets, which has her entirely level with Anja Shrubsole, who is of course now retired. She's the 5th leading wicket taker in the world in women's international T20s, and she'll be looking to go past Anja Shrubsole today. We've got a pretty decent crowd in. We've got a very decent crowd in, actually. I would say it's around about 2/3 full, as the players, as they have done throughout this series, players and umpires all take the knee before the start of the game. So a smattering of applause from this crowd. And we are now ready to go. Anneke Bosch is going to face the first ball. Katherine Brunt is going to be bowling it. And, well, she had an extraordinary game the other day at Chelmsford, picking up 4 wickets for 15, her best T20 international figures at the age of 37. It's quite the achievement. Here she is. First ball of the match. I'll give you the field in a moment. And Bosch clips this off a thick edge down towards Freya Davis. She was looking to turn that into the onside, but she got a thick leading edge that's rolled down through deep third, and they're underway straight away. So Lara Goodall's a left-hander. Quite a stodgy left-handed opener, strangely promoted to the top of the order, but it's a plan. They want to, I guess, just see out the first few overs. It's not a normal T20 plan. We've got a mid-wicket, a mid-on, a deep backward square, almost a long leg really, and then slip, deep third, point, cover, extra cover, and a mid-off. As Brunt is in to the left-handed Goodall, bat raised, and Goodall gets a thick edge to this as well. We've had 2 balls and 2 edges. This one's rolled down to deep third, where the fielding is done, and 1 more is added to the total. 2 without loss.
A little bit of swing in those first 2 balls for Katherine Brunt. Thick edge, the first ball was would have been gobbled up by Gully, you would imagine, if there were in place or one in place. I'm surprised to see the way that these South African openers may play, that England wouldn't get another catcher in there behind the wicket with the swing that we've seen.
Brunt into Bosch, and Bosch gets, what's that come off? A bit of inside edge maybe, and thigh pad rolled down to Sciver, the stand-in captain, vice captain, and today's captain at slip. Heather Knight out, if you're just joining us, out with a hip niggle. I think it's just precautionary, keeping her out in advance of the Commonwealth Games. So Nat Sciver's taking over for today. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 in the ring on the offside, and a deep third. We've got slip, mid-wicket, long leg, and a mid-on as Brunt is in. It's another thick edge, does Bosch, this time down a deep third again, where Freya Davis, who's in today for Izzy Wong, does the fielding. 1 more to the total, 3 without loss.
Yeah, again, thick outside edge. You can't see either of these South African batters booming it through the offside the way that they've played so far, and you do want to leave the temptation there for them to try and hit a gap. So bringing that extra cover fielder into a gully region for the right-hander especially may be a good move for the remainder of this over if she gets back on strike.
Goodall, the left-hander, on strike now to Brunt, and Goodall drives firmly but straight up to mid-on, and there is no run. We've got a fantastic viewing position here at Worcester, by which I mean not a fantastic viewing position. Ooh, Melinda Farrell, who's going to be with us later, has just brought a mocker via my producer, our producer, Charlotte Swift. Thank you very much. I have my own personal producer, of course. The rest of you have to make do with whatever's left over. Last ball of the first over. Brunt into Goodall. Goodall taps this into the onside. Slightly shorter ball, pushed to mid-wicket. That is the... Oh, well, I say it's the end of the over. It is the end of the over. Somewhat wild throw came in from mid-wicket. And I think from Alice Capsey, actually. It's the first time the debutant has touched the ball today. 3 without loss at the end of the first over. And you mercifully have a monitor in front of you, Stephen Finn. I'm peering at basically ground level height between a window separation and a pole.
Yes, yeah, a slightly obstructed view and not quite behind the bowler's arm, so it's actually hard to determine. When we say not quite, we're at deep mid-wicket now for the right-handed batter at the striker's end. So yes, it's almost impossible for Dan to exactly explain what's going on. A little bit of guesswork aided by his expert summariser. We'll get there. We'll tell you what's up.
Mercifully, though, the scorers have got a great view right behind the bowler's arm. But it is very important, and it's always the way at Worcester. Scorers take precedence, and they should do. You know, without them, you've no idea what's going on. Sciver is going to bowl the first over from our end. This is first ball's driven to Dunkley at cover along the ground by Bosch, and there is no run. Picks out the fielder straight away.
Katherine Brunt was berating herself at the end of that over. I'm not entirely sure what about, but she looked particularly angry. She whacked herself on the forehead and then walked straight to mid-on. If I went for 3 in the first over of a T20, I'd be doing cartwheels to mid-on.
Sciver in, full toss, and Bosch just pushes the ball back rather limply to the bowler, and there is no run. Well, I think she wanted to get a little bit fuller, having seen how she set up Goodall in the first game. She sent 2 away from the bat and then brought one swinging right back in rather gloriously. That ball from Sciver just died a little bit actually on Goodall through the air. This one's fuller and is driven for a first boundary of the day. Reaching out for that is Bosch, and she got a really good connection, a little bit too much width from Sciver, and Bosch is properly underway. She moves to 6, South Africa 7 without loss.
Yeah, nice timing. Offered the width there from Sciver. It was a nice length, but wide of off stump, trying to entice the drive. She can just free her hands through the ball. It beats the field, and with such a short boundary and the weather that we've had at the moment, rapid outfield, easy 4.
Sciver in again to Bosch. Bosch clips this into the onside. There's no deep square legs, so long legs got a lot of ground to make up, which she does. Throw comes in, and they got through for just the 1 there. 8 without loss. Bosch to 7, brings a left-handed Goodall onto strike. We're still not quite sure what we're going to call this end. I feel...
The commentary box end.
Yeah. Scorer's box end, really.
Yeah,
they're in the best position.
We're the second best over here.
Yeah. So yes, we've got scorer's box end and the Digless end. There's Rory Burns' favourite building is in this ground. I'll tell you about it in a minute. This one's full, is driven to short mid-wicket. Throw comes in, is well backed up. Sort of slightly furious throw again, I think, by Capsey, and there's no run. Yes, Rory Burns was patrolling the outfield before the start of a day's play in the county championship, I think it was. And BBC London's commentator Mark Church was chatting to him. And he said, "Oh, Mark, I love it here. It's got my favourite building in the whole world." The Sciver is in. This is firmly driven back past the bowler, but crashes into the stumps at the non-striker's end. And that is the end of the second over. 8 without loss, South Africa. Bosch has 7. Goodall has 1. And of course, Mark assumed that he was referring to this beautiful sort of neo-Gothic, quasi-Norman cathedral that overlooks the ground here. It's a beautiful cathedral at Worcester. It dominates the skyline along with the maples and sycamores and cedars. It's a very picturesque ground. And it turned out he was referring to the hotel that's situated on the ground, which is a pretty ugly rectangular white and purple box. But the proximity to the ground and the length of time you're able to spend in bed as a result of being here.
I thought it was for another reason.
The breakfast?
No.
Brunt in. That's all cuts back a little bit on Bosch. It's pushed it to the onside. There's no run. What would that be?
Well, I think the hotel is literally fielding at fine leg at the moment for us, and it would be very hard not to stand in the field all day and hoping that someone peels back the curtains in just their underpants and
I see.
reveals themselves to the world. I mean, I do it in the morning, and then all of a sudden you think, whoops, I'm at a cricket ground here, and they're all out there.
Brunt runs in, and Bosch drives firmly back past the bowler all the way up to the boundary for 4. That's a lovely crisp shot. I tell you, Bosch is looking at a bit of decent nick here. It's a second drive she's connected with really well. The placement here was perfect, straight back past Brunt. And I've got a fairly good idea. I know how Brunt's going to respond to that. It will be angrily, and it will be short.
Yes, that's a scrambled seam delivery, trying to catch her on the inside edge, but Bosch is waiting for it, and it's not quite a half volley, but it bounces just up lovely into the middle of the bat, which suggests to me that with the way she's timed that this is a very good batting wicket.
Brunt into Bosch, flicks this away off her pads, is going to run down towards the boundary. Fielder's chasing after it. I don't think she's going to get there. No, she isn't. Take a look at the umpire's signal, and I think that's come off a bit of bat. Has she given that off bat? I didn't see a leg by a signal, so no. It's a second 4 in this over for Bosch, just straying a little bit onto the pads, and Bosch was able to get. Yeah, she's got, well,
no, there's absolutely no bat involved. There, look, Katherine Brunt stood with her arms outstretched, saying, "Oh, she's managed to get the umpire to change her mind."
Well,
that's what being a 37-year-old seamer does for you. You can convince the umpire to change her mind, and Sue Redfern is doing just that right now.
Well, don't look at me. I think I think Sue Redfern thinks that we're the scorers.
Should we give her a wave?
We should give her a wave.
Give her a wave. Yeah, we've got that one. Thank you, Sue.
16 without loss. So Katherine Brunt takes those 4 runs off her analyses as Brunt's in again. It's pushed back to the bowler. There's no run. For those of you perhaps not completely aware of how it works in cricket, preposterously, if you bowl a poor ball down the leg side and it comes off the batter's pads and runs down to the boundary, it doesn't go to the bowler's analyses. So Katherine Brunt was very careful.
There's just no logic to your argument with this. Every time I speak to you, try and wind me up about it, and then when I say, well, you should be caught down the leg side off your pad, you say no. It's double standards.
Yeah. Well, who said cricket was fair? This has been chipped in the air, but just going to evade mid-on. A good diving, sprawling stop from Sophie Eccleston prevents the boundary, but doesn't prevent a single. The score advances to 17 without loss. Bosch to 12. Goodall has 1. Anyway, the result is that Katherine Brunt's had 4 runs taken off her analyses, but the South Africa score, of course, has all those runs on it. Still. 17 without loss, 1 ball to go in the 3rd over.
She's done a magnificent job of convincing Sue Redfern that was
Have
off
you
the
ever
pad.
done that?
Yeah, I've tried, and umpires just say, get on with it.
Do you think she was helped by the replay on the big screen, perhaps? I don't know. Brunt into Goodall, who turns this off her pads with a slower ball on leg stump, and that's gone down to deep backward square, where Freya Davis does the fielding. 1 more to the total. It's a bright start from South Africa. 18 without loss after 3 overs, in stark contrast to how they began at Chelmsford, when they were really all over the place. Early wickets meant that they never really got going. Bosch has 12. Goodall has 2. You talk about good batting surfaces, Stephen Finn. You've had to experience a few of them, and today, Sam Northeast, 410 not out. I think he's only the 3rd Englishman to get a first-class 400. Archie McLaren is top of the tree, 424 against Somerset in 1895. Graham Hick got 400. Might even have been here at New Road some point in the late 80s. And now Sam Northeast. And then, unbelievably, his captain declared on him at lunch when he was within 15 runs of an English first-class record.
It's a phenomenal effort, really, isn't it? I played against someone last week who got 270, and it felt like he got 1 million. So,
well, that was a partnership and a half, wasn't it? We'll come to it in a minute. Freya Davis is in. This ball's full and driven, but straight to short extra cover where Maia Bouchier does the fielding. Weren't you on the other end of a partnership of 477?
Yes, I was, yeah. Yeah, and I was captain whilst that partnership took place, yeah.
Wasn't a lot you could do? I mean, those balls are horribly soft.
Yeah, but in the game, there was 1,600 runs scored across 4 days for the loss of 13 wickets.
Oh.
It's ludicrous.
That's got to be up there with a first-class record, I should think. Davis in. This is driven in the air, but down to deep backward point, deep 3rd, really, for 1 more to the total. 19 without loss. We've seen it a lot this summer, and is it the balls, is it the pitches, or are they both equally to blame?
Combination of the two, I think, particularly the balls, because especially on day 3 and 4 wickets, even when the wickets are good and dry, you would anticipate some degree of variable bounce as the day wore on and the heavy roller wears off, but the balls go like oranges, and that means that your likelihood of variable bounce is even more minimal.
Freya Davis, right arm over the wicket, full, driven back to her, pushed really back to her by Bosch, straight to the bowler. There's no run. I mean, the scores we're seeing are absolutely ludicrous, though, aren't they? I mean, we're seeing Surrey chased down against Yorkshire in what ought to have been an awkward chase at Scarborough. They did that.
Sussex 2 weeks ago chased 370 against Derbyshire, and it was just a doddle. You never thought that we weren't chasing it. It was incredible.
Davis in. That's again pushed straight back to her along the ground by Bosch. There's no run. We've seen England do it, of course. 4 chases already in 4 test matches. It ought to make, if the pitches are so good, it ought to make for high scores in white ball cricket as well. We're in that phase of the season now. We haven't yet seen it too much in the men's ODIs, but I suppose a Kookaburra ball stays harder for longer.
Yeah, I was going to say, in domestic cricket, we had 247, I think, scored against us.
Davis in. That's been worked out through deep mid-wicket for 4. It's a good shot, that, actually, from Bosch, advancing on Freya Davis. She hit it aerially, but she didn't give Nat Sciver any chance whatsoever at mid-wicket, and she picked her spot and picked up another boundary.
Yeah, nice batting. Faced 2 dot balls from good bowling from Freya Davies on a length towards the top of the stumps, but in T20 cricket you can't let a bowler just settle in and bowl that same length and push them back with the forward defence. So Bosch walks across her stumps and uses the timing that she showed so far today to beat the fielder at short mid-wicket, and it's an easy 4. As soon as it gets into the outfield it races away, but there's no change in the field. She's looking in good touch. Davis into Bosch again, and that's down the leg side. This will be signalled wide, I'm imagining. Yes, it will be eventually. 24 without loss. Steve O'Shaughnessy is the other umpire today. Sue Redfern MBE is at point, not at square leg. Quite sure why, because I can't see why her vision would be impaired particularly, but maybe she just prefers being at point. As Freya Davis, ponytailed, runs away from us. Into Bosch, who works this off her hip down towards deep backward square leg. Bouchier runs to her right to field. She's swift to the ball, sends in the throw on the bounce above the stumps, and that is the end of the 4th over. South Africa maintaining this good progress, 25 without loss, and this is really important for them, isn't it, Stephen Finn, because their morale must be in a pretty tough place. They've been properly thrashed in the last 4 white ball games they've played. Yeah, England have been outstanding, haven't they? I think and they're obviously a more gelled team than South Africa are at the moment in these white ball formats. But again, it's always an opportunity to be able to start begin a streak of momentum. It's very hard when you're facing bowlers such as Sophie Eccleston, who's coming into the attack now, who is outstanding in white ball cricket or in all cricket, but especially white ball cricket for England. But you need to show courage and positivity in order to do that, and I feel that Bosch has done that so far. It's important that Goodall doesn't just chew up balls here for the sake of it, especially when you've got batters waiting to come in of the class that South Africa have. So Sophie Eccleston, probably England's gun bowler, with 70 T20 wickets already. To put that into context, Katherine Brunt is 37 years old. She's got 102 wickets. Eccleston is 23 and she has 70. She's in. First delivery is driven back to her on the bounce, and there's no run. A tall bowler, but tends to bowl around about, well, what she's bowling at now, about 52 miles an hour. Doesn't spin it a mile, but she gets good dip. She's in again. This is worked, slogged to short mid-wicket, and there's no run. In the air briefly. Had Nat Sciver momentarily interested, but never really got more than about a foot off the ground. As a pigeon flies past. In comes Eccleston. It's driven again up to mid-off, and there's no run. We're in the power play, so we've had 3 very rapidly delivered dot balls. Expecting Bosch to do something to mix this up a little bit now. Here is Eccleston. That's a bit shorter. She just defends from the crease back to the bowler, and there's no run. 4 dot balls, the 5th over of the innings. She's coming round the wicket to the right-handed Bosch, who started brightly. Slight change of the field. Sweeper comes up. Mid-on goes back to long-on. So we've got 5 in the ring on the offside. Eccleston into Bosch, who goes for the sweep and hits it firmly out towards deep mid-wicket. She'll get a single, get off strike. The score advances to 26 without loss. Bosch to 18. Steady start from Eccleston, this. Yeah, something was going to give there, wasn't it? You can't just pat back a maiden in the first 6 of a T20. I know Sophie is England's best bowler in this format, but you have to try and score against her. You have to try and just rotate the strike if you can, even if you can't hit a boundary. It's important you keep the scoreboard moving, because you go from what was looking like a good power play after 3 overs to now, after 4.5 overs, being 26 for none, having taken no risks whatsoever, really. On what seems like a good wicket. You'd be remiss to think that you're having a good power play if you're in this position. Sarah Glenn's been moved to sort of short fine legs, a square leg and a mid-wicket. Last ball of the 5th over. Goodall drives just past the outstretched right hand of Eccleston up to mid-off. Brunt tidies up. That is the end of the over. South Africa 26 without loss. Bosch has 18. Goodall 3. Just a 1 off that over. Thoughts on South Africa's start from Stephen Finn, and then to take you through the next 5 overs, and for the first time today, I'm delighted to say, it'll be Melissa Story. Yes, a good start for England here. South Africa looked as though they were getting a positive start in the first 3 overs, but they've been pegged back by 2 good overs there, and especially that one from Sophie Eccleston, only going for 1 run. So the last over of the power play coming up, the run rate is 5.2 runs per over, and South Africa are going to have to put their foot on the gas at some stage. Good afternoon.
Hello. That was a bit of a switch about in the commentary box here, which Worcestershire's are quite small.
Yeah, it's not designed for people my size.
No, not your size, and I was just flattened into the wall by Daniel Norcross to get past. So Sciver continues, driven straight down the ground sweetly by Bosch, fielded by Brunt on the boundary, single taken, 26 for none. And yeah, it's been a promising start for South Africa, you'd say, after the doom and gloom of this series you feel for them so far, and there has been a bit of intent, at least from these two openers.
Yes, I think Bosch in particular has looked as though she wants to be positive. Goodall is 3 from 9.
As Sciver comes around the wicket, this is drilled at mid-wicket, a slight misfield there. And they're running hard, the South African batters. They'll get back for 2. Score moves on to 28 for none. Powerful shot there from the left-handed Goodall.
Yeah, I just think it's so imperative that even if you are in a rut of form as a team, that you don't go into your shells. It's important that you try and meet the challenge head on rather than receding within yourselves and just trying to put a score on the board.
Sciver in, and that's uppish, but down towards long on. Fielded again by Brunt, just ticking the scoreboard along here, South Africa, 30 for none. I mean, Goodall's not had the strongest of series so far, especially in the white ball stuff, and scores of 5, 16, 24. I mean, it's going up. Although, no, actually, I think she got a duck in the last game. It's going down, then it's going back up, I'm sure. In comes Sciver, slower ball, and just hits Bosch there. Bit of an inside edge onto pad.
Yeah, it can be a tricky time when you are in a place where you're looking for your own individual score, yet you know that as an opening batter your responsibility is to try and play for the team and get the team off to a flyer, but England have bowled well here.
Sciver, 5th ball of this over, another slow ball outside the off stump, cut away to Eccleston. An uncomfortable bounce for her there, but no run taken, 30 for none. And looking at the times these two teams have played each other before, actually in the last 6 matches there's been 3 wins apiece, so South Africa have been fighting against England in the past. There's another slower ball hit in the air and just over the head of extra cover, racing along this quick outfield, and that's a 4 to Anneke Bosch. She moves on to 23. That finishes the 6th over, finishes the power play, and South Africa 34 for none. And that wickets column so important. So yeah, there's 6 last games, 3 wins apiece. The only problem is here that South Africa have never won batting first against England, and I don't think they've ever won in England in T20 internationals. There's always time for a first.
There is. Records are always there to be broken. I do think that the way that this England unit is polished in the way that they bowl and the diversity that they have in their attack, the different angles, the leg spin of Sarah Glenn, the left arm spin of Sophia Eccleston, means that even if South Africa don't get a good start, that they've got the ability to be able to peg them back through the middle of the innings, which that shows why so far in this series they've not scored a big score. But certainly it's very important here that South Africa keep going and try and get something that they can defend to try and get that first win in this country.
And it will be Sarah Glenn, a leg spin, coming in from the far end opposite us. And I was a bit concerned at first when I saw spin introduced from that end, because if you seem to remember, in the Men's County Championship, when Ben Stokes played for Durham here against Worcestershire, and a few records were broken in terms of the 6 hitting department, which I'll continue after this first ball from Sarah Glenn, bowling to Goodall, who strikes that firmly down the ground. And just fielded there by Eccleston for a single, 36 for none. So Ben Stokes hit 17 sixes at this ground, and quite a lot of them was off a young spinner. I'm not sure if you remember.
Yeah, Josh Baker, wasn't it? Yeah, I think everyone saw the highlights of that.
Yeah,
it was brutal.
Very brutal, and I seem to remember that Baker was bowling from that far end, because quite a few balls went into the crowd behind them, as that's flatter from Glenn, pushed down the ground again by Bosch. She moves on to 24. Goodall at the other end, 7. Ticking along at a tidy run right here of 5.68. So, as a spinner, after seeing those highlights, I'm not sure I'd be wanting to bowl from that end.
No.
In comes Glenn, and there's the reverse sweep in front of square from Goodall. And that's been hit out to deep mid-wicket in the end. Another single taken. 37 for none. No loss of wicket here. Still important, and I think just the confidence these two, you could say, building up together has brought out that shot from Goodall, who's now Bosch pushing into the onside. Straight to mid-wicket, no run taken.
Yeah, it's, as they grow into their partnership, they'll feel as though they're getting a read for the pitch.
In comes Glenn, getting through overs quickly. That's cut away on the offside. Good diving stop there from Sophia Eccleston, who loses the ball. It just looked as if the ball was going to sneak through there. It's powerfully hit by Bosch. But yeah, again, another single. 38 for none.
Yeah, nice. Just strangling the scoring rate. No boundaries, as few boundaries as possible.
Final ball then from Glenn, as that's paddled over the shoulder by Goodall. An appeal from Amy Jones, not too sure what for. There's a few grimaces on the England players' faces as they come in for a slight discussion here, of course. DRS available for these players. Timer's going down. It's going to have to be a snappy decision from England. And it seems as if they've decided not to. I'm not sure anyone out there was too confident. Of course, they have 2 reviews remaining. But finishing the 7th over, 38 for none, South Africa.
Yeah, mildly desperate maybe there. I think there wasn't too much that I liked about that appeal. But you never know. But the wicketkeeper is always the person to ask because they have the best view. Sometimes the bowler has a slightly biased opinion of whether it's out or not, as we see with Stuart Broad so many times in the men's internationals.
Well, I was about to say, there's Izzy Wong, who of course has made her breakthrough this summer, is showing some warning signs of
you've got to be careful of those bowlers.
Because
keep an eye on those ones because they do seem to think that everything is out, and if you're susceptible as a captain to believing them, you can waste your reviews pretty quickly.
Change of bowling then from our commentary position. And Bryony Smith in with her off spin, drilled down the ground by Bosch. Down to Katherine Brunt, who fields and underarm flicks that back to the bowler. Bryony Smith has really, really come along in leaps and bounds of her bowling these last few years. Just started as a bit of part-time spin for the South East Stars, but brings herself in regularly after the power play in the women's domestic competition. She comes around the wicket to Goodall, who reverse sweeps again and hits that hard down to the boundary. Fantastic strike from Goodall, who brings her score into 12. She's still below 100 on that strike rate, but if she just gives herself a bit of time to get in, then I'm sure we'll be seeing more shots like that. 43 for none.
Yeah, she's nailed that out the middle of the bat, and be surprised if that doesn't bring about a small field change. That fielder at backward point goes further behind point to try and stop that. The fielder on the boundary, Danny Wyatt, moves squarer as well, but lovely shot.
In comes Smith in reply, slower and flicked off the legs by Goodall into the leg side. Both deep mid-wicket and long on converge, and good bit of fielding there in the deep. Single taken brings Bosch back onto strike, and of course the perilous left-hand right-hand combination as well at the crease, which means that the fielders are doing double the running they'd normally be expected. Smith getting through her overs quick, slight variation in a Yorker from her then. Bosch just using her feet slightly, and in the end just having to jam the bat down on top of the ball. 44 for none. Got a deep cover, deep mid-wicket, deep square, and long on. Smith in, and that's hit in the air down to mid-on. Katherine Brunt was there on the boundary having a little chat with one of the sub-fielders, and I'm not too sure she was expecting the ball to come towards her. It would have been a difficult catch if she'd maybe been a bit more, I guess we can't say awake to England's women's greatest ever bowler, but it was hit in the air. Smith in again, reverse sweep in the air this time, and Danny Wyatt, a dive on the boundary. It's a fantastic attempt. You can hear the appreciation from the crowd as it's one of those ones where you're not sure if the ball, you can really make for it if you've got to stop the boundary, if you've got to go for the catch. It was a great effort from Danny Wyatt, one of England's best fielders. Again, Goodall just getting a bit too in front of square there, the reverse sweep there. But she moves on to 14 at the end of that 8th over. Bosch at the other end, 27. The score 46 for none. And soon, as we do our manoeuvring here in the commentary box, we'll be having Farrell join us. Welcome.
Hello, welcome. Yeah, it's beautiful to be here. I'm so excited to be back in the country for the first time after COVID, to be back at Worcester looking across at the cathedral, and to be on commentary with you for the first time, Melissa.
We have the Mels in the commentary box, and we were talking about this before the game, because of course we've got Mel Jones, another female commentator in cricket, and the Big Bash who was there was...
Well, there was one game in the first year of the WBBL, the Women's Big Bash. Mel McLaughlin was presenting. Mel Jones and I were on commentary, so we renamed it the WBB Mel.
Fantastic. That's all I can say. It's Davis into the attack again, and there's a paddle down towards the boundary from Goodall. She's really coming into her own here. We're seeing innovative shots and just a bit more bravery at the crease from the South African batters. It brings up their 50 after 8.1 overs, but it's that vital wickets column. Still no wickets fallen, and it's been a rather different picture for South Africa this game so far. Do you think anything's changed for them, mindset-wise?
Well, maybe the fact that they've got no chance of winning the series, it's just freed the minds a little bit. I mean, it was a funky little shot there. She almost seemed, she backed so far away, it almost looked like she was about to fall over. But runs coming.
In comes Davis, and this is swatted over her head. Racing down the ground. Good bit of work from Eccleston, who braids that boundary to our right in front of us. It seems far away. Another single taken, 51 for none.
And just there as well, we've seen a lot of edges. I mean, everything was coming off the edge in that first over and even the first few overs. But the longer they're in there, a few more that they're starting to middle a bit now. So it'd be great to just see them be able to grow in confidence, I think, and take whatever they can out of this match ahead of those Commonwealth Games, which of course around the corner.
In come Davis again, scuttles in, and that's hoiked away on the leg side, bisects those two fielders at deep square and deep mid-wicket. Another boundary, and this is a different South Africa out there. 55 for none. Bosch moves on to 31. Goodall at the other end, 19.
That was a really confident shot, down on one knee, just hoiked across. She is a player too. If she was in a team with me, I would want Anneke Bosch to have the nickname Bish Bash. It's got to be her nickname, right?
No, I'm so glad you've brought this up, as in comes Davis again. A slower ball, just tickled to mid-wicket. No run available there. Good bowling from Davis, good recovery. It's Bish Bash Bosch. I mean, we had a lot of fun during the test match, because Bosch batted for quite a while in South Africa's first innings, and it is incredibly tempting every time she hits a good shot to go Bosch.
It is.
It's quite similar as well to the IPL. I'm not sure whether you've followed the TV coverage, as in comes Davis to Bosch, who again is looking to work that into the vacant square leg region. Just finds the fielder at mid-wicket. No run, 55 for none, where they re-show those highlight reels of the Indian batters' innings, and they always put the sound effects on top of it. So they play the pull shot and you hear the psst, and you almost expect fireworks in the background, an explosion. Anneke Bosch just gives that same emotion. In comes Davies again, past the umpire, bowls, and that's a very slow ball, which is waited an age for there. Bosch, she swats it cross back down the ground. Gets through for a single, 56 for none. Just nearing this halfway stage.
And just the confidence that hopefully this will give South Africa to be able to be at this point and not have lost a wicket. Perhaps set themselves a little platform as well. They've relied so heavily on Lara Wolvaardt for their runs on this tour, really. She's been the standout, as you can imagine she would be. South Africa without several big name players, so having to fill some holes, testing the depth of the South Africa side. So now for Anneke Bosch to be stepping up as she is. Goodall, maybe some questions about whether or not she should be opening, but she's out there still. She's starting to find the middle of the bat as well. Good signs.
Yeah, I mean, scores for Lara Goodall of 5, 16, 24 in the ODI. She got a duck in the most recent T20, but yeah, there's good signs for her. I just think there's, as you say, a few more questions around her opening in T20s. Nat Sciver's in, and this is hoiked away on the leg side. 2 bounces, a good bit of work from Maia Bouchier out there. Warm appreciation from the crowd, because it looked, and Bosch struck it like that was going to be a boundary immediately, but she's so fast out there on the boundary, Maia Bouchier.
Yeah, just again, another really confident shot from Bosch as well.
In comes Sciver, arms swinging, slower ball, swept square of the wicket and down to where Bryony Smith is fielding. Another single. And he feels that even though they're getting just singles and finding the fielders, you mentioned hitting the ball so hard. If these two can stay into the latter stages of this game and with wickets in hand, which is something South Africa haven't had the luxury of all of these games, then something quite incredible could happen here today at Worcester. That's Sciver making a few changes to the field as she bowls to the left-handed Goodall. It's shorter, slapped away and finds the gap. It's raining boundaries here at New Road, and that brings the score on to 63 for none. And suddenly this England bowling attack, they're really struggling for answers. We've seen the bowlers being chopped and changed up. They're bowling one over spells, but no one really seems to have an answer.
Yeah, just a back foot there and just pulled it firmly. It's the positivity. They just look much more positive than they have done. Not much time to think about things between matches in this series.
In comes Sciver, slower ball just chipped past the fielder at short fine leg. It looked as if the ball was just going to hang up there, and there's a flick back on the boundary from Sarah Glenn. She's gone flying over the boundary rope. I'm sure the umpires may just want to check this one. It's one of those tantalising chases down as the ball just keeps inching closer and closer. And just looking at this replay, Sarah Glenn, the ball has hit the boundary cushion there. It was a good effort from her, but the score will move on to 68 for none.
And just the change in pace, you talk about looking for answers, change in pace from Nat Sciver there. It looked like it really surprised her. She was almost through the shot early, ballooned up, was perhaps a little bit lucky in the placement in the end.
A few of the slower balls have worked quite well for England. We've seen them use them quite early on. Fred Davis especially, Nat Sciver. I'm sure the South African bowlers will just be watching down, looking at how to bowl on this surface. Welcome back to listeners from 5 Live as in comes Sciver, bowls a low full toss, drilled away on the onside. Single taken, score moves on to 68 for none. And that's just the one ball left in this 10th over.
And they're just looking very positive about the way they're trying to score, whether it's the singles, whether it's early on when there were edges but there were runs. Really good turnaround.
Sciver in, slower ball which strikes Bosch on the pad. She's been a bit deprived of the strike recently and just struggled to hit that one with the lack of pace, but that completes 10 overs. South Africa 68 for none, going along at healthy run rates. And a few more thoughts from you, Mel, and then it'll be Daniel Norcross.
It's just good to see a little bit of a turnaround for South Africa and see them scoring so positively at this early stage. Terrific crowd here at Worcester. It's so lovely to be back here. There are plenty of people here, cloudy skies, and it's a very mild day as the players have a drink, and I'm joined by Daniel Norcross.
Melinda Farrell.
That was a high five then.
It's
high five.
It's marvellous to have you back. You've been marooned in Australia for far too long.
I have been. We'd message each other in the depths of the Australian winter, trying to work out what was going on in life. You're a good friend to me there, and I didn't expect to get stuck out in Australia. I felt quite emotional coming back to all these grounds. So I felt it again a bit today at Worcester. Yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful ground, isn't it? It's so picturesque. It's got the cathedral. It's got the trees that circle it. It's got the is that a ladies' pavilion? It's
yes.
Where we get the cakes.
Yes, that's the ladies' pavilion.
Yeah.
And a good little cafe. To my shame, right? Yeah. So I was at Chesterley Street earlier this week for the men's ODI, and I decided the next day, after filing a piece, I'm going to be a tourist for a couple of hours, and I walked around the cathedral and the
Lumley Castle.
Not Lumley, I was in Durham itself.
Oh, just in Durham.
Stayed in a lovely inn, and I just thought, you know what, I'm not going to take for granted being in this country because I'm so excited to be back. But to my shame, I have never been inside the cathedral here at Worcester.
Oh, you must.
I know I must. So
you already live half an hour away. Well, it's about 48 minutes if my cab this morning was anything to go by.
So
Yeah.
yes, take me to task if I don't do it. I'm determined that I am going to actually go inside the cathedral at some point.
It's absolutely glorious, that cathedral. It's among my favourites. So yeah, well worth a little bit. I mean, are you staying later after the game?
I've got to get, if the trains are running, I'm jumping
it's a
on
big
it.
if.
Yeah, big if. I intend to jump on a train to Leeds.
Because there's one day international tomorrow, then you've got to attend.
Ridiculous.
It's day after day, isn't it?
It's I knew it was ridiculous before I came over here, but after being here for just 2 weeks, it's like, what is going on?
I mean, I wonder, I'd be fascinated to know what listeners think. I mean, I think when I was younger, my idea of heaven was that cricket would be on absolutely every day. But I just wonder if we can keep up with it all, because there's different formats. You know, you're doing women's T20s one day, men's 50 overs the next. We had those 4 test matches that were crammed into sort of 4.5 weeks. We barely had time to reflect. I mean, somebody told me that I think the 2005 Ashes series, one of the most iconic Ashes series of all time, began in the middle of July and ended in the middle of September. It was about 9 weeks from beginning to end.
Tour matches?
I know.
What? Warm-ups?
But it meant you could sort of create this narrative, couldn't you? In between, we was talking about, you know, reverse swing and what have you. As Eccleston starts a new over, the first one after the drinks break, the first ball is driven down to long on, where it's fielded by Freya Davis, and they get through for a single. 69 without loss. Whereas what we were experiencing was this sort of this great blancmange of events that was just sort of coming at us. We didn't really know what to do with it.
Well, I have to say, I was getting massive FOMO during the test series against New Zealand. It started. I was like, I need to get over there because I need to see.
It was something else.
I need to see a bit of this. I need to actually be there for it.
Eccleston comes round the wicket to the right-handed Bosch, and Bosch swings this out towards deep square leg. It's running away towards the boundary. Dunkley's round, picks it up, throws in. They get through for just the single. 70 without loss. It's been a really good start for South Africa. They've got a proper base from which to build. You sense, though, looking at the way this pitch is, there are runs on this pitch, so they're going to need to get some scoreboard pressure on England here. They want 150 plus, you imagine, at least. Down the wicket comes Goodall, gets a thick edge, and it squirts to sort of short third, really, and there's no run. Bryony Smith doing the fielding.
It's good to see Goodall going at more than a run a ball. She's 29 off 24, and not just the fact that she's getting runs, but just getting them at that plus, you know, over 100 strike rate, I think will be really positive for her.
Well, she needs an innings like this. It's been a tricky tour for her. There have been moments when she's shone, but she's not really been fluent yet. Today certainly is her best contribution. As Eccleston is in, she swings at this hard out towards deep mid wickets, running away towards the boundary. Davis is quickly round to her left, but they'll get back for 2 as Danny Wyatt tidies up. 72 without loss. Goodall into the 30s. He's on 31.
And there's a word I don't like using, right? Because it gets used a lot when people talk about intent.
Oh, intent.
Intent.
Yes. Eccleston in over the wicket, the left-handed Goodall, and she's just about digs this out down to deep backward square leg where Maia Bouchier is stationed. Comes in off the boundary to field. One more to the total. 73 without loss. Because
intent on its own means nothing. You know, what do you intend?
Yes.
You intend to go out there and have a cup of tea and a lie down. But the idea here, you can see the intent to be positive and score of every ball and aggressive shots.
Eccleston in, tossed up slightly, that's swept but straight to Bryony Smith at short fine leg. That's the end of another Eccleston over. South Africa 73 without loss. Eccleston's just gone for 6 off 2. Bosch has 36, Goodall has 32. Yes, it's that use of feet. It's about also it's being positive in defence, positive and aggressive in attack as well, isn't it? But they have been. Now, here's a question for you. Sune, we believe, that is the pronunciation, is carded to come in at 3, but with 9 overs to go now, you send in Wolvaardt, don't you?
Surely.
Or even Chloe Tryon.
Chloe Tryon or Wolvaardt, yeah. But Wolvaardt has been the standout as far as South Africa's batting goes. She's been the one who's consistently scored.
Sarah Glenn starts a new over and a swing and not exactly a miss, but a bit of an under edge. Just rolls out into the onside. Throw comes in, clatters into the stumps. Lara Goodall clatters into Sarah Glenn and ends up on the ground. We're going to have a little look upstairs just to make sure that isn't a run out from where we're sitting, which isn't the best vantage point, I've got to say. It felt in to me. None of the England fielders are showing any excitement. So I'm expecting 1 run to be added to the total. We'll find out shortly.
It was a clatterfest.
It was a clutterfest.
Clatterfest. Yeah.
Yep, she's well in. And then, yes, our replay has stopped. A really beautiful freeze frame with Lara Goodall about to collide with Sarah Glenn.
It's a shoulder charge. Proper bump, as we'd say in AFL football.
She came off worse, didn't she, Goodall? As this is heaved away without timing out towards deep mid-wicket where Danny Wyatt does the fielding. 75 without loss. Bosch to 37. Goodall to 33. Yes, I'm sorry. The reason why I'm thinking of Tryon is that Tryon probably has got the highest ceiling for a bigger strike rate. As Glenn's in round the wicket, and that's hit into the ground and really well grabbed out of the sky by Glenn. Bit of a crowd catch. Some people thought it had got to her on the full, but it had been hit straight into the ground. Very good fielding off her own bowling by Glenn. She's in again. Goodall comes down the wicket and works this out towards deep mid-wicket just for another single. 76 without loss.
And yeah, just again seeing her use her feet there and come back down. It's quite remarkable after the troubles she has had. It's just the previous ball she'd come down again, didn't quite get hold of it, but I don't mind that at all.
Glenn in, and that's a bit shorter this time and punched but straight to short. Extra cover, where Alice Capsey, making her debut here today at the tender age of 17, is fielding. There's no run.
17.
I know. Isn't it ridiculous?
It certainly is.
But you know, I mean, she could have an incredibly long career. The way women's cricket has changed is extraordinary. It's marvellous, but extraordinary. It's next delivery is sort of dug out to the offside. They go through for a single, but they took too long over it. And then a little bit of a fumble by Dunkley in the covers means that they get through comfortably enough. 77 without loss. 12 overs have been bowled. Goodall 34. Bosch 38. I mean, Alice Capsey can genuinely contemplate a 16 to 20 year professional career, and that's how far English women's cricket has come. 10 years ago I don't think that would have been possible. You think about people like Holly Colvin.
I was just going to mention Holly Colvin. She debuted at 16, didn't she?
I think so,
I said that word debut. I've got to make sure I say it the right way in this country. I'm readjusting again.
Listener, Mel is half English, aren't you?
I'm a dual citizen.
You're a dual citizen, yes.
But yeah, it does take me a little bit, saying the scores the wrong way around when I'm in this country.
None for 77. Yeah.
All of that. But she made her debut.
Well, they like it. Well done. Tick, house point.
Well, thank you. Yep. When she was 16 and retired in her 20s.
Yeah.
Whereas
early 20s, really.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Katherine Brunt starts a new over from the Diglis end, and down the wicket comes Bosch and gets thick inside edge. That's running away towards the boundary. It's being pursued furiously, but in vain. 4 more to the total, 81 without loss.
Yeah, and a nice quick outfield by the looks of things here as well. Ball running away nicely. But you look at someone like Elise Perry. I mean, she made her international debut at the age of 16 as well, and has been able to have a career into her 30s. So many more opportunities. You look at someone like Mignon playing today, retired from ODIs, but on the T20 circuit.
Brunt into Bosch, who drives a slightly slower ball. It felt a very full one, but straight back to the bowl. It's 54 miles an hour. Yeah. That one from Katherine Brunt.
We saw Nat Sciver bowl a couple of slower balls with really good effect a couple of overs ago, and that might be the key to this, a bit of pace off.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. It feels like that, doesn't it? Because the pitch feels good and true, so a bit of deceit through the air is the order of the day. Maia Bouchier is coming in from the sweeper on the offside. Deep backward square leg has been sent back. As Brunt is in to Bosch, and Bosch pulls this out towards deep mid-wicket. They might think of 2. It goes straight to the fielder, though. Bosch wants a second. Throw comes in, and it's gone to the wrong end. Oh, had that been a direct hit from Amy Jones? The ball came to the wicket-keeper's end. She threw then at the non-striker's end. And I think, Goodall would probably have been out had she had that throw hit direct.
Well, Goodall wasn't at all interested in the second one. In fact, when they
it was all Bosch.
Yeah, when they ran the first one, they almost collided because they were watching the ball. if it had been closer to the stumps, would have been out at the wicketkeeper's end.
Brunt in again. That's driven up to mid-off. Good tumbling stop by Eccleston. Prevents more than a single. 84 without loss. This good start continues. Bosch to 45. Is essentially Capsey just threw at the wrong end there. She'd thrown at the bowler's end, then Goodall would have been in awful trouble. Bosch turned sort of blind, didn't she?
Oh yeah,
just
she
wanted
did
to get
totally.
back on strike.
Yeah, she wants it.
Well, she's looking good here.
She's
45 or 47. Just going to eliminate those dot balls. There's plenty of batting still to come. Just 7 overs to go after this one. As Brundy's in, Goodall heaves this out towards deep mid-wicket. It's going to bounce just in front of Bouchier. That's another thing that's been slightly in South Africa's favour today. There's a couple of times that ball's threatened to find a fielder, but it hasn't quite got there. So one more to the total, 85 without loss.
Yeah, those edges early on, they could easily have led to a couple of wickets, but that happens sometimes too, doesn't it? Just some days they go to hand, some days they get in the gap and go for 4.
It's a bit like South Africa yesterday when they were 6 for 4. I mean, I don't know how they were 6 for 4, but they were.
It was astonishing.
It's so strange, wasn't it? Brunt in to complete the over. Bosch has a little shimmy and then she pulls this around the corner. Is she going to beat the fielder? No. Dunkley manages to get round to her left to field. Sorry, beg your pardon, Bryony Smith down there at long leg. One more of the total, 86 without loss. 13 overs are gone. Goodall 35, Bosch 46. We're saying a brief farewell to Melinda Farrell and welcoming for the first time today, winner of the 100 with the Oval Invincibles, the finest women's team in the competition by a country mile. It's Tash Farrant.
What an introduction. How do I live up to that? Yeah, really excited.
We don't need to. Well, just win it again.
Well, unfortunately I'm not playing this year due to my injury, but I'll be supporting the girls all the way. Yeah, and a great start here for South Africa. They've come out with some real intent, and they've started with a really excellent first wicket partnership.
It's going to be Sarah Glenn who starts her third over, and this first ball is just swept around the corner. This is going to go all the way for 4. It is. She's got that fine enough, and Maia Bouchier is very square at deep square leg, and score moves on now into the 90s. 90 without loss and 50 for Anneke Bosch. It's been a fine knock, some lovely crisp drives in the power play, and she's really, well, more than anchored this innings. Those 50 have come in 49 balls, just over a run a ball, has given South Africa this wonderful platform with, well, basically 7 overs to go. 160s on the cards here. Likes of Chloe Tryon still to come. Back into a crease goes Bosch, and she heaves this out over deep square mid-wicket for 4. One bounce for splitting the two fielders here, Wyatt and Eccleston on the leg side. And now South Africa, Tash Farrant, are on the charge, 94 without loss.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from Bosch there. First ball obviously straying down the leg side from Glennie. She took advantage of that. And then what I've loved seeing from South Africa today is that there was a few edges up front, but the intent that they're showing is really good, and some really good running between the wickets and all.
Glenn in again, short again, sort of straight pull along the ground up towards Sophie Eccleston just for a single. One of our former colleagues nicknames that the strapple.
The strapple?
The strapple, a straight pull. So you're playing it like a pull, but you're hitting it sort of in the V.
I mean, it's probably a good call against Sarah Glenn. She's quite skiddy as well, so playing it 2 squares is quite risky. So the strapple is a good option in this case. Go
for it. Comes in off just 2 or 3 paces. Now then, what's happened to the field? We've got a deep cover, sweeping, short extra. As Glenn is in. Down the wicket comes Goodall. Works this nicely out towards deep mid-wicket. And that's a fantastic piece of fielding out there on the boundary. I think has saved it. They're going to have a little check just to make sure the heel of Katherine Brunt didn't just scrape against the boundary sponge.
Really good from Katherine there, flinging herself across the field and saving 2 runs there. Well, I have noticed that Bosch is absolutely rapid between the wickets. That 2 the previous over.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to be out, but she easily made it. Goodall was in a bit of trouble, but yeah, I have noticed that she's rapid between the wickets.
I think if you were Lara Goodall, you might be thinking she's a bit too rapid for my liking, as Glenn is in. Down the wicket comes Goodall again. He's good use of the feet. She heaves that out to deep mid-wicket. One more to the total, 98 without loss. What have you made of this pitch? It looks like a good one.
Yeah, it looks like it's got good pace in it. Not really much spin so far. So yeah, I think it's a really good wicket, and South Africa needs to capitalise here.
Glenn, last ball of the over, swept. It goes straight to short, fine leg, and they won't get a single for that. Goodall was up for it, but Bosch has sent her back. End of the over, 98 without loss. Bosch has 55, Goodall 38, 6 overs to go. Just take a quick look at that cut-off time. It's 3:51. Do you have the time on you?
It's 24 past 3 at the moment.
That should be all right, shouldn't it?
Yeah,
27 minutes to bowl 6 overs will be fine.
England are really good at getting through their overs. Obviously, they've used Bryony Smith and Sarah Glenn, who are rifling through their overs, so I think they should be good for time. I think this is a really important part of the game where South Africa, obviously the 2 openers are doing really well, but they really need to kick on here because there's obviously a lot of batters in the shed waiting to come, the likes of Chloe Tryon and Lara Wolvaardt and the form that they've been in, and so these two just really need to push on and look for a boundary every ball, I think.
Now then, Alice Capsey's going to get her first bowl in international cricket. I'm quite surprised to see her. I'm delighted to see her bowling, but I thought with the score as it is and with the bowling options as they are, I wondered if we weren't going to see her with the ball, but she's going to get a chance here. She sort of reminds me a little bit of Heather Knight in that, she's a batter, definitely, who bowls some annoying flat off spin. And she also has a knack of picking up wickets. She's in now to the left-handed Goodall. Her first ball in international cricket is reverse swept expertly for 4. That is a really good shot, and the reason why it's such a good shot is we've got a point and we've got a sort of short third, almost a backward point. There's very little between those two fielders, and somehow Goodall has found that gap. Goes to 42, 100 up.
She's used that option a lot today, and she's found the fielder, but she's bisected the 2 fielders there really well, and a good option for her.
Capsey, how will she respond to this? Down the wicket comes Goodall. That's gone skied up in the air. She should get her first wicket, and she does. South Africa lose their first wicket. Goodall goes for 42, and Alice Capsey on debut, her second ball, has picked up a wicket. Goodall came charging down the wicket, as she has done throughout this innings, and was just deceived by the flight. Didn't quite get there, got a thick top edge, and it ballooned to short point where I didn't catch the catch. Was that Sciver under it? I didn't quite see who was under it.
Yeah, Nat Sciver caught that one. Like you said, Alice Capsey, all last summer in the 100s, she just had a knack of taking a wicket when the team really needed. She's come on there, been hit for 4 off her first ball in international cricket, and then she's picked up the really good wicket of Lara Goodall. And yeah, kept her nerve there. I actually had the honour of presenting her cap this morning, and the one thing that really stands her out from everyone else is that the grit and determination she shows, especially in pressure situations, which we find ourselves here.
Well, it's a moment you'll never forget. She's off the mark with wickets. We may or may not see her bat later. She's carded to come in at 6, which she's in with a decent chance, but the way England have been batting lately, especially with the firepower they've got at the top, means we may not see her with bat, but 17-year-old has picked up a wicket on debut, and she's still got 4 more balls to bowl in this over. Now this is intriguing. Lara Wolvaardt has come in at 3. We certainly weren't expecting Sune to come in, but I wondered if they'd go with Chloe Tryon above Wolvaardt. Wolvaardt, very fine batter, but Chloe Tryon bats a little more explosive. Her first ball, she pulls out towards deep mid-wicket for a single and is underway, 103 for 1.
I think Wolvaardt here will be really happy with the start that South Africa have had, and she'll be quite pleased to be coming in a good situation. She's not really found herself coming in a good situation for a long time. So
sorry, I made a complete error, Tash. I forgot that the field has crossed. I'm so used to the batters not being able to cross anymore that I forgot that you can still cross in women's internationals. So this is Wolvardt's first ball, and she pulls it towards deep backward square leg for a single. So the previous single should have been attributed to Anneke Bosch. What do you think of that rule change, or law change I should say? Are you looking forward to that coming in?
I love it. Obviously as a bowler, yeah. If I've worked hard getting that wicket, I want to have that first ball at the new batter. So yeah, I'm all for that new rule change.
Capsey into Bosch. Bosch uses her feet, and she's driven this high in the air out towards long on, and it's been brilliantly taken. And right, what's happened there? She hasn't got. She's not out. But the fielder has just saved 4 runs there. It's Katherine Brunt. That was going for 6. Brunt has taken an extraordinary catch, I think, and then was just going over the boundary. She then tried to toss the ball up to herself because she was losing balance. Let's take a look at this to start with. A really good catch. She was running away to her right. She then tossed the ball up in the air. Yes, before her feet went over the boundary rope, but she sent it just too far away from herself to be able to catch the ball off her own rebound, if you like. But she saved 4 runs because that was going for 6. And they've come through for just a couple. 106 for 1. Spectacular stuff from Brunt. Last ball of the over is heaved out towards deep mid wicket. But with no great power. They're coming back for a second as Bosch is...
The catch in the end, she'll be absolutely gutted about that, knowing her. But yeah, what a piece of fielding, and England putting themselves on the line every ball here.
Race out to the middle, and I'm sure quite a few of the South African batters are going to be feeling that good. But I've noticed as we hear this music in the background that they're having almost the t-shirt scatter blast, which we've seen across the men's T20 blast competition, where they often have these guns which propel the t-shirts into the crowd at quite a force. If you're not paying attention, you get a t-shirt to the face. It does hurt. But it seems the budget didn't allow any guns in this one, as volunteers are throwing them into the crowd. In comes Eccleston, and that's pushed back to her by Wolvaardt.
I remember actually when I was a bit younger and I was in the crowd at, I think it was an England men's game, just really charging across the stands to try and get one of those t-shirts.
In comes Eccleston, shorter, pulled away hard by Wolvaardt. Out to deep mid-wicket, single taken. 120 for one. See, I actually remember an international game at Cardiff, and it must have been one, I think, where the women were playing first then the men, which isn't too often in international games. I'm not sure if my memory's deceiving me here, as that's an attempted sweep and a big appeal from Eccleston. The finger of umpire Sue Redfern goes up, and that's Anneke Bosch looking to sweep that fuller delivery to the boundary. Gone LBW. She consults Wolvaardt in the middle. They've got the option to send this one upstairs, and she does.
I'm not sure she's too convinced by this, but I think Wolvaart's given her the licence to take the review.
Well, she's got a big grin on her face, whilst Wolvaardt the other end actually looks more concerned. So I'm not sure whether she's probably happy to be out there.
I think having 2 reviews in T20 is a bit of a luxury, so she's obviously playing well, so she's gone for this one.
Well, plenty of luxuries today. Of course, they had a drinks break as well. As looking at this replay, that's hit Bosch, who was stepping into the offside, looking to sweep that one behind square. It struck her on the front pad. It looks in front of the off stump, but they're just checking at the moment whether there's any bat involved. Umpire checking ultra edge now, and there's no impact when the ball passes the bat, just when it strikes her pad.
I think that's a good decision from Sue Redfern. There's a lot of moving parts to that sweep, and I think it's just umpire's call there. So unlucky for Bosch, but a really good innings there. And
so the score after that wicket, 120 for 2 South Africa. But stay with us on 5 Sports Extra to continue listening to the full match commentary here at Worcester. But on 5 Live, I'm going to hand you to Henry Moran.
61.
So Anneke Bosch gone for 61 off 57 balls, looking to just push at the end of this innings. But it gets to that stage almost as an opener, when you've been out there quite long, you do start to just overhit things or look to score too fast and lose your timing a bit. And sometimes it's good to have a fresh batter come to the crease, especially when that batter is Chloe Tryon.
Yeah, obviously she's looking for boundaries there. She's doing the right thing by her team, trying to kick on that scoreboard. Just unfortunately missed that one. But yeah, no, here we have Chloe Tryon, who will be chomping at the bit to get going straight away.
She's definitely got that ability to play those big shots. We saw her smoke some sixes in the ODI series. Got a shorter boundary down towards us now, but still quite long boundaries around this square here at Worcester. Nice crowd packed in today to see this T20.
Yeah, great crowd here. It's really good to see. I think Worcester, you can always get a good crowd here, and they're making a lot of noise out there, which is lovely.
So Eccleston into Tryon, who's pushing that into the covers to get off the mark with a single. 121 for 2 South Africa, and suddenly this is almost a chance for the England bowlers with 2 new batters at the crease. Yes, South Africa are going to be looking to accelerate, but a few quick wickets here and they could really stem this run rate, which is currently 7.26. So at any mark, it's not going to be an easy chase for England, as that's full. Worked into the onside by Wolvaardt. They're running hard here and should get back for 2. Tryon's quick, running to the non-striker's end. And it's just been positive out there from the South African batters this whole innings.
Yeah, definitely. I think a really telling sign of that is the way that they've run between the wickets. They've not left anything out there, and running that first one hard to make sure they can put the England players under pressure.
Eccleston low full toss, but finds extra cover, does Wolvaardt, and finishes at the 17th over with a dot. Eccleston's figures incredible so far. 3 overs, 10 runs, 1 wicket. South Africa 123 for 2. I was just remembering that the t-shirt gun story. of mentioning at Cardiff, which I started before that Eccleston wicket, which was that actually when they were firing them into the crowd, I must have been probably about 14, 15, and I could see the t-shirt coming into my hand. It was so close, and then a hand came out of nowhere and grabbed it in front of me, and I do remember it being a grown man, so it was a bit like, come on. And actually the Australian women who were sat in the balcony behind us had spotted it happening and came down and made sure that a t-shirt was found to me. So although we always want to portray the Aussies as the big baddies, they're nice. I've always after that just loved the Australian team, which you never want to hear from an English commentator. But in comes Glenn bowling to Tryon, and that's bowled her. A big swipe across the line from Chloe Tryon, looking to play the big shot out towards us at the commentary box, and Glenn, she just bowls it full. She pushes the ball through, and another wicket falls for South Africa. 123 for 3 now.
Yeah, really well bowled by Sarah Glenn there. I think what she's done in the last T20 and today, she just skids it through and she bowls really straight. Not a massive turner of the ball, but in T20 cricket that actually suits the leg spin bowling. Just everything firing towards those stumps, and yeah, really big wicket there, because England will be wanting to restrict South Africa here to under 150.
Welcoming back listeners from 5 Live after that wicket of Chloe Tryon, and apologies, it was stumped actually in the end. My eyesight deceives me. We're at a bit of a strange angle looking over here, and it all happened so quickly, but it was quick glove work from Amy Jones in the end. She's been pretty good this game so far for England, and it brings the captain Sune Lees to the crease. She's had a rough patch of innings in these last few games for South Africa, hasn't really been able to show what she can do, with scores of 7, 4 and 9 in the ODIs, and of course a duck in the first T20 international. But she'll be looking to play a captain's knock here at the end. She'll be on strike to Sarah Glenn. She bowls that one flatter. The strikes Lees in front of the stumps, a slight appeal, but the umpire there signalling that it was perhaps going down the leg side. A bit of bat.
Sarah Glenn bowling so well here. She's been bowling well all season for Central Sparks in the regional setup.
She's in again, and that's a leg stump line delivery worked off the hip by Lees into the vacant square leg region. They get through for a single. 124 for 3.
Yeah, I think Glennie, she's been working so hard, obviously, having missed out on that World Cup spot. She came back, worked so hard with the Central Sparks, and you can see that it's done her really well here. She's been bowling well, and she's continuing that form today.
In comes Glenn. Fuller driven through to deep cover with Fields, and they get through for another single. 125 for 3. That run rate just slipping down to around 7 now, and they've got to be careful not to lose this momentum. I'd say that Wolvaardt is the key batter here for South Africa, as in comes Glenn, and that's down the leg side. Maybe a fine sweep there from Lees. I'm not sure if she's got any bat on that one. It's called wide by the umpire.
Just as I was bigging up Sarah Glenn, she's bowled 5 wides there, which will be really disappointed at. I'm not sure she's too happy about the decision there, actually.
Her and both Amy Jones there, their hands in their head, and had a little word with the umpire, which is never wise. But looking at that replay, it has just taken the back of Lisa's pad, the faintest of tickle.
I feel so sorry for umpires. Like, how are you seeing that? That is impossible to see. Just a slight glance off the back leg there.
Well, that's a first, hearing a fast bowler saying they feel sorry for umpires. As in comes Glenn, shorter, cut to extra cover by Lees.
Well, I've actually done a bit of an umpiring day at Lords. It must have been about 5 years ago, and I was so atrocious. And from that point on, I had a bit more respect for umpires.
In comes Glenn. That's cut in the air, and a good catch taken there at extra cover. Danny Wyatt. She doesn't drop those, and Sarah Glenn makes a well-deserved breakthrough. The captain Sune Lees never looked comfortable at the crease. 1 off 4 balls in the end, and that was just a splatter delivery from Glenn. Tried to punch it off the back foot, but can only find the fielder at extra cover. 130 for 4 South Africa now, and it's been quite a dramatic fall of wickets here from such a comprehensive opening partnership. 102 that first opening partnership. They've now gone down to 130 for 4.
Yeah, they've really lost a lot of momentum here, South Africa, which they'll be disappointed about. There's still 12 balls left of this innings, and they'll want to try and at least get 20 or so off them to try and get that 150 mark, because I really don't think anything around the 140 mark is going to be enough for them to defend the way that the England batters are playing at the moment, the form that they're all in.
I mean, Sophia Dunkley alone could take apart any bowling lineup. And speaking of England's, I was going to ask you, how do you think this pitch has been playing? Do you think it's a good batting surface?
I think it looks like a really good wicket. There's not really been any spin. The seams seem to come on quite nice, and the outfield's lightning here across the ground square.
Eccleston in, shorter and pulled away by Wolvaardt. Straight to Wyatt at deep mid-wicket, single taken, 131 for 4. I mean, looking at the pictures of it and from the angle we're sat, it's a golden brown surface which looks like it has plenty of runs in it. With the start South Africa was given, as you say, they need to make sure they're getting over that 140.
Preez here, she try and get up and down the wicket really fast and get her innings going from that point of view.
Eccleston in, and that's cut past the inner ring by Mignon Preez. And that finds the boundary rope. 4 runs to get her off the mark. 135 for 4 now. Eccleston annoyed with herself after that delivery. Gave Preez too much width. And of course, she's a specialist T20 batter now. She's not playing the other 2 formats for South Africa. She's gearing herself up for the Commonwealth Games. That's a good way to get off the mark. In comes Eccleston again, and that's hoiked down the ground. Quite an ugly shot there from Preez, but it does the job. Single taken.
I think having Preez in this squad is paramount for South Africa. She's obviously fresh. She's not played in the Test match or the ODIs, and sometimes it's nice to have a fresh face in the team and just to sort of lift the spirits.
In comes Eccleston. This is slashed in the air and just past the outstretched left hand of Nat Sciver at extra cover. Didn't get hold of it, Wolvaardt.
She's such a joy. I think I played at the Vipers ages ago with Mignon Preez, and she's such a great character to have around the group. Obviously a lot of experience, but just brings so much energy to any group that she's in, and I think that's what South Africa need at the moment.
Eccleston past the umpire, bowling down the leg side, pulled away and past the short fine leg fielder, racing away. And another 4 runs found by Preez. Eccleston not happy here. She's just stopped from her follow through. Walks back begrudgingly. This is good from Preez.
Enjoying the pace that Eccleston's giving her. She's sort of sitting back in the crease, trying to create that width for herself, and yeah, she's playing the number 1 T20 bowler in the world pretty well right now.
And interesting, considering the amount of bowlers England have used, as Eccleston in, a quick delivery again, which just tickled around the corner, a crossbat shot from Preez. Another single taken to finish the 19th over, 142 for 4. But just with the bowlers they've used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bowlers in this T20 side, and Brunt still has 1 over left. Will we see her bowl the last one? Or, I mean, they've got 3 seam options and 4 spin options.
I think obviously that's the beauty of having so many all-rounders in your team. I think that's sort of why Bryony Smith and Alice Capsey are getting themselves into this T20 team, because they're primarily batters, but they can really offer something with their off spin as well. So being an all-rounder now, especially in T20 cricket, just balances out the side so nicely, and they're kind of like gold dust. I think we're very lucky to have them both at the South East Stars. I've used them a lot when I was captaining last year, and just England having a lot of options, but going back to their best bowler here, Katherine Brunt,
who only needs 1 more wicket to be the leading wicket taker for England in T20 internationals. She's bowling to Preez, who's given herself room, pushing this into the offside, and can only find Katherine Brunt, who fields off her own bowling and a dot ball to start this final over. I mean, there was an interesting study from, I think it was Jared Kimber, who was talking about how in the men's game there's less genuine all-rounders now at the moment because of how much time it takes to balance those 2 disciplines. But if you look to the women's game, it's a completely different picture. Incredible all-rounders packing out these sides. Brunt in, low full toss, slapped to extra cover and dropped. A shy at the stumps though, and there'll be a run out. It's all happening out there in the middle. The ball was dropped by her wife at extra cover. Big grin on their faces. Katherine Brunt's on the floor. But Sciver had the peace of mind to throw the ball at Amy Jones. And both the South African batters were in there in the middle. I think they had a small civil discussion about who wanted to be out. And one of them took a jump closer to Amy Jones. It was quite a disastrous situation. And actually Preez, the one to walk off the pitch in the end. It was a low catch for Sciver. Just slapped the top of her hand, fell out, but straight away froze to the keeper's end. An easy run out for Amy Jones.
I think Katherine Brunt was not too happy about that one, because that would have made her the highest wicket taker, and Sciver, her wife, just nabbed it from her and taken the run out. So I don't know if that was tactical or not, but anyway, it doesn't matter because they've got Preez out.
Maybe I think it was an act of love, because if it was going to be the wicket which propels you into the lead, you don't want it to be a low full toss, do you? So she's going, hang on, I know you can do better than this. Let's hit the top of off stump, and then that'll be a better celebration. But nonetheless, it brings Delmi Tucker to the crease. 4 balls remaining in South Africa's innings. She'll be facing Katherine Brunt, who storms in, shorter ball on the leg stump, pulled away but not timed, to Danny Wyatt at deep square, and they can only take a single. She's quick out there, 143 for 5 now, South Africa, and Lara Wolvaardt here needs to face as many of these remaining 3 deliveries as she can.
England have fielded really well throughout these 20 overs, and I think when you sort of don't notice it, I think that's when a team are fielding really well, and Amy Jones has kept really nicely behind the stumps. So yeah, they're really trying to restrict these runs here.
In comes Brunt, then searching for that wicket. It's in the air, over her head. It's been hit hard and evades the fielder down at long on. That's a glorious shot from Wolvaardt. Sophia Eccleston running as fast as she could to grab that one, but there really has been some remarkable shots from the South African batters today.
Yeah, Wolvaardt just playing that back up the ground. She's crept to 21. She's done that really quickly, only off 14 balls. She's playing a really good innings here for her team. She'll want to get them above 150 this ball.
Brunt bowling to Wolvaardt. Slower ball and bowls her. That's it. That's the wicket, which puts Katherine Brunt at the top of the list. England T20 international bowlers, and that's more like it. Straight through the gate. It was a big swing across the line from Wolvaardt, and Katherine Brunt stopped in the middle of the wicket, both fists raised in the air, and roars to this Worcester crowd.
Yeah, she'll be buzzing about that. Really nice back of the hand slower ball. She bowls that so well. I spoke to her this morning actually, and she said to me that she has a feeling that she might be it might take her a while to get this final wicket.
Goodall at the top of the order had a 102-run unbroken partnership, and well, eventually it was broken, it wasn't unbroken. 61 for Anneke Bosch before she was eventually out LBW to Sophia Eccleston. Lara Goodall finally finding her form, 42 off 34 balls for her before she fell to Alice Capsey, her first international wicket for England on debut. Then there was a scatter of wickets as Chloe Tryon gone to Sarah Glenn, Sune Luus as well. Glenn picking up 2 wickets, and then the run out of Mignon Preez for 9, And finally, Laura Wolvaardt bowled by Katherine Brunt for 21, so 148 for 6 off their 20 overs. A few thoughts from you, Tash Farron, whether England can chase this one down, how South Africa are going to go against defending this total, and then to take you through the innings interval, it'll be Danielle Norcross.
Yeah, so I think really good from South Africa there. They've obviously been struggling in the ODIs and the first T20, but they've really put a decent score there on the board. I think at one stage they were probably looking sort of 160, 170, so they'll be slightly disappointed to fall short of that, but a really good opening partnership from the two openers there, and 149 for England to get. They've got some new faces in that batting lineup, so they'll be itching to get out there, but a pretty decent score there. Something they're going to have to bat well to get.
Yeah, it's something, isn't it? I mean, it's fallen away a little bit from what it might have been. It means we've got a game on our hands, as we saw what happened yesterday in the men's game between England and South Africa. Some early wickets, bit of pressure. I see Ayabonga Khaka out here just going through her warm-up. She bowled exceptionally well at Chelmsford the other day. She can get a little bit of support. Who knows what may happen? Now then, I'm just going to give you a little bit of news about the Southern Vipers.
Oh.
The all-dominant Southern Vipers that feature two of our commentators. And unfortunately, overexposure to TMS has not been too good for Georgia Elvis and Emily Windsor. They lasted a total of 6 balls between them today. Elvis was bowled first ball, Georgia, bowled by Kopak for a duck. And Emily Windsor was caught by Cordelia Griffith off Kopak, also for a duck. 6 balls, no runs between them. Sorry, ladies. But I am delighted to say that Chloe Hill, a Lord's Taverner and a keeper who used to play here at Worcester, made a rearguard 55 in company with Schofield, put on over 100. So the Southern Vipers recovered from 38 for 5 to 143 for 6, ended up on 233 for 9. But the Sunrisers, who are most definitely not fancied to beat them before the start of play, they are currently 120 for 2, just needing about 5 and over or so from here to record a surprise win. And I think Georgia Elvis did say that, you know, if they were looking for a win to break their duck, then against the Southern Vipers they shouldn't be looking there. But this could be good bragging points here.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously the Southern Vipers, they just always manage to get themselves out of a hole. I think the Sunrisers will be disappointed that they didn't capitalise, having them 5 down early, but I think everyone sort of really wants the Sunrisers to win. I'll be honest, as a star, I think they've actually been playing some really good cricket, but they've just not been able to get over the line, and winning is a habit and they haven't got that yet. And yeah, I'd really like them to win against the Southern Vipers, but what I really want to know is how the South East Stars are getting.
Well, we'll get our producer to give you all those scores in a moment. Right, so firstly, let's take a little look back at that innings of fantastic opening partnership. But what was noticeable to me, Tash, was that England's bowling so far against South Africa has a lot of penetration, but today weren't able to take those wickets, and in part I wonder if that is the nature of the pitch. It looks like a belter.
I really do think it looks like a good pitch. I was here yesterday and had a quick look at it. It looked really hard. It's a new wicket. I think there's good pace in it, not much spin, so I do probably think that is 10 or 20 or so under par, especially with how England's batters are in form at the moment. But it's definitely something to bowl at, and they've obviously got the likes of Khaka, who bowled so nicely with that shape in the other day, and Ismail, she'll be wanting to come out and make a statement, because I think she's been quite quiet. She's obviously been injured and she didn't bowl how she would want to in the first T20, so she'll be raring to go and try and get a few early wickets.
There are a couple of nice little moments as well when Nat Sciver dropped what would have been her wife's 103rd and record-making wicket in T20 internationals, affected the run out instead. But I don't suppose Catherine's going to let Nat forget that in a hurry. She hasn't let Lydia Greenway forget a drop at backward point from 2009, so she's not going to let her forget that one.
I'm just so glad that she got that wicket in the end, because we wouldn't have heard the end of it, to be honest.
Neither would Nat. So everything's worked out fine in the end. Right, so let's take a look at the 100, which is coming up shortly. Now, it's been delayed slightly for the women this year because of the Commonwealth Games, and we discussed that the other day, Commonwealth Games. But last year's 100, you featured in extensively. You're on the winning side. In a way, it's slightly frustrating that it's going to be delayed slightly. You're going to have slightly fewer games. I mean, you're not because you're injured, but the women's team's going to have slightly fewer games, but it's in a good cause with the Commonwealth Games being there. Can you just sort of describe for us, because you featured in the very first game of the 100, which also featured a brilliant match-winning 6 from Maddie Villiers right near the back end when the Invincibles pulled the game out of the bag from absolutely nowhere. But I remember that night, and I remember the atmosphere in it. What on earth was it like to play in?
It's hard to remember because it was so overwhelming. I think the whole build-up to the whole 100, men's and women's side, no one knew what it was going to be like. It was a new format. I mean, it's still cricket, but it was a new format. So the anticipation leading up to the game, I remember it was obviously at the Oval. We got there really early to watch Becky Hill warm up for her big performance. And yeah, sort of when we went through that tunnel and no one knew about all these massive fireworks going off, and there's a great picture of Emma Lamb coming out to bat just staring up at the sky, just not knowing what's going on. And I just think it was so great that it was such a brilliant game, really close game between the Invincibles and Manchester, and I'll be honest, I've never played in an atmosphere like it. It was an evening at the Oval, I can't remember, I think it might have been a Wednesday or something, but the atmosphere was so loud, and I've never actually been used to not being able to hear my fellow fielders and the captain. It was really hard to hear Danae. It was kind of carnage, but it was just so amazing, the support that we got, and then obviously so great to win our first home game at the Oval, and it's something that I think it's probably one of my favourite cricketing moments in my career, and I'll remember it for a very long time.
Well, it broke the record for the most number of people to attend a women's domestic game. That was subsequently broken later on at Lord's, I believe. And in part that was, I guess, because of double headers, but that game wasn't a double header. That game was a standalone. So the crowd that came to that came to watch a women's domestic game. And look, I mean, for the people who don't understand and who don't follow women's domestic cricket as much, up until very recently, women's domestic cricket is not particularly well attended, is it?
No, definitely not. And I think that's what all female players were crying out for. They wanted to be put on the big stage. They want to be in front of crowds at the best grounds in this country, on Sky, on BBC. And I just think the standards show that all of the women were, all of the female players were ready for that, and they really stood up to it, and the competition was incredible in terms of attendance, but the actual talent on show, I think everyone sort of realised that, you know, this is cricket, and whether it be a women's game or a men's game, it's a great spectacle.
Now, you ended up prevailing again in a great final at Lord's, but you were captained by Danielle van Niekerk, and I don't know about you, it feels to me that this South Africa side really do miss her. Not so much, you know, with her leggies and what she can provide in the middle of the innings with her bat, although that is a notable contribution, but her captaincy, it's a really important element of your victory last year. What is it that she did to create that Oval Invincibles feel?
She's just so passionate with everything that she does in training, during the game, and she's obviously got very good cricket smarts, but yeah, everything she does, she just puts all of her heart and soul into it, and she'll even admit she wears her heart on her sleeve, and the passion that she has playing for any team, and I'm sure obviously South Africa, and you're right, it does feel like they're just missing her grit and determination at the moment.
Tash, the players are coming out there. England's openers, Sophia, Dunkley and Danny Wyatt, are coming out to open the batting, chase it down 149. Your thoughts on who's going to prevail in this match? And then to take you through the first 5 overs, it'll be Melissa's story.
Yeah, I think England will fancy their chances here. I think South Africa's slightly under par at 148, but Shabnim Ismail with the ball here, and she'll want to fire it up and sure bowl a few short ones at Sophia Dunkley, who's coming off some great form. And if they can get a few early wickets here, then they can really get into that England's middle order.
I mean, we were speaking about how we want to see a fired up Ismail here, because it'll be good for South Africa to see. Welcoming back 5 Live listeners to this game between England and South Africa, international T20 at Worcester. South Africa getting a fantastic first innings score, 148 for 6 off their 20. A big ask for England, but their strong batting lineup Shabnim Ismail with the ball in hand. Runs in to Dunkley, who's driving to mid-off. No run off the first ball. And welcoming back Stephen Finn.
Good afternoon. It was pleasant viewing, wasn't it? It ebbed and flowed through that first innings. Good opening partnership. Maybe a touch slow in the power play if we're being critical, which is why they only really got to 148. It'd be interesting to see whether the England batters do take a more positive approach.
Especially with pace on the ball. Ismail in, and that's a big swish outside the off stump from Dunkley. South Africa attacking here. They've got that first slip in. There's clearly a bit of something for the batters, a bit of something for the bowlers, and Ismail really, her and Brunt, the two have made things happen already just in those few deliveries.
Yeah, a bit of shape there. Katherine Brunt shaped her first over or so as well, so that's why the slip is in place. The opportunity to take wickets and find the outside edge.
Ismail charging in, bowls, and that's driven uppish from Dunkley, slightly wide of mid-off, and she gets off the mark. England 1 on the board, and she's been in fantastic form, Sophia Dunkley, just in this entire white ball series. That fantastic 100 against South Africa at Bristol, and then runs in the last game, 59. She's got a new spot at the top of the order. And at the other end, Wyatt, fantastic white ball opener for England, always looking to get a quick start in these games and likes pace on the ball. Facing up to Ismail, she's just guiding this one down to third man. Bit of work there for Lara Goodall, who was very fine. And England get back for 2 runs, 3 for none the score.
Can you call Wyatt a veteran? She's played 120 odd games, so I suppose you can, although she's younger than me, so it feels mildly unfair to call someone 2 years younger than me a veteran, but I'm going to do it today. She's nicely off the mark there. She's a positive player in these first 6 overs.
I mean, I've been called a veteran recently as Ismail bowls a shorter one, which is guided again down to third by Wyatt. She's quick between the stumps, and another single taken, 4 for none, which you're not expecting to hear when I've just turned 22.
Yeah, I mean, in what situation were you called a veteran?
Was playing for my club team, and we do have a few youngsters. I think I was 3rd oldest in the team that day, which is never a good sign.
How old are the youngsters?
They're they're 14, 15, 16. It's really quite a devastating thing to turn up to every Sunday and just be surrounded by people doing their GCSEs, but it's one way to make you feel old. Ismail in, and that's back of a length again, dropped down to third, and Goodall's in the game here this first over. Just goes to show what a good line Ismail has bowled that first over. England 5 for none after the first.
Yeah, it's slightly discerning, I think, digressing from the cricket here slightly, but Archie Lenham, who had such a breakthrough year last year in the T20 Blast as a 16/17-year-old, turned 18 years old today. So he's finally been allowed in the official Sussex WhatsApp group because there's a rule against safeguarding.
We were just actually discussing this with Alice Capsey, who has her mum in the South East Stars group chat group, and Tash Farrant was saying how she's usually quite quiet in it, and there was one occasion where Alice Capsey threw herself down in the field and ended up on the floor, and apparently her mum just sent in a gif of her face palming. And it was that solicited a good result from the girls, but do forget these things. I mean, Hampshire's got a few youngsters around who are the team I follow. Tom Prest, I think he's only 19.
Yeah, we had Danny Ibrahim and Archie Lenham playing at Lord's this week, both 17-year-olds. And there's me as a 33-year-old feeling incredibly old. I made my first class debut the year after they were born.
Ooh, that's a hard hit.
Yeah, it's slightly worrying, yeah.
I mean, the opposite of youth here, we have the experience of Ayabonga Khaka, who'll be taking the new ball from our commentary end. She's got a long on and a deep mid wicket. She does get that nice inwards movement, tempting Dunkley into that big shot on the onside. In she comes then. Bowls back of a length. This is plinked in the air and taken. There's nothing from the umpire though. South African, I think half the South African bowlers there thought that was out. Then the other half just didn't move an inch.
It looked a little bit glovey. It definitely rebounded up off the thigh pad of Sophia Dunkley, but whether it caught a glove on the way through, no one apart from the wicketkeeper thought it did.
And Bonga Khaka making things happen already as that one's fuller, and this is hoiked into the onside by Dunkley. Bit of casual fielding from Tryon out in the deep, and they get through for 2 runs. Not too much enthusiasm early on.
I think I'd be very disappointed if my fielder in the second over of the game just casually, nonchalantly jogged after the ball like that.
I think it's just then she was making a gesture to Bosch, who was at square leg, gesturing that maybe she should have got that one, but there's conflict already in the field. Khaka in, and that's down the leg side, slashed away to short fine leg, no single available there. That's Dunkley on strike, apologies. And
big induckers here, aren't they? Cramping Sophia Dunkley for room. She obviously likes the width and to be able to free her hands through the ball, so the angle into her hip not allowing her to do that, so she's going to have to use the pace and help it on its way rather than hit against them.
In comes Khaka to Dunkley, slower ball, which she inside edges into her pads. Her head was right up, searching in the sky, playing that shot. And another dot ball, 7 for none. A good over so far from Khaka, just the 2 runs off it. I mean, she's coming off a fantastic run of form. You almost just hope that she's not feeling too much pressure just to get going from the start. If they can replicate that fantastic opening stand for South Africa. Khaka in, slower ball, just dropped into the onside, and Bosch comes round to field, single taken. 8 for none, England.
England have certainly showed more intent here than South Africa in their first couple of overs, but their score is not that far in advance of where South Africa were, so different ways to skin a cat, I suppose. That sounding too crass, but
I've never heard that one
Have
before.
you not?
No.
What else do you skin?
Why,
I'm
do you
sure that's a
skin-
pretty regular saying, isn't it? Yeah.
Do you skin cats regularly in
Well,
your spare time?
I've got 2 cats.
In comes Khaka again, inside edge into pads to Wyatt. Finishes the second over, 8 for none, England. Tight stuff from South Africa. Yeah, I've unfortunately listened to your podcast.
Yeah, poor
and
you.
I've heard about the cats.
Yeah, there's 2
I hope
cats.
they're not listening to hear about you talking about skinning cats.
Well, no. One of them would provide good surface area to skin because she's quite a big unit. The other one's a little bit more on the slender side. But yeah, Ethel and Elizabeth, they just lurk around at home, waiting to be fed and looking out the window and dreaming about chasing the seagulls in Brighton. But yeah, they haven't been skinned yet, and I don't have any plans to skin them
Fantastic
anytime
news.
soon.
That's
Yeah,
really
she'll be pleased to know, yes.
good news for the BBC's reputation. Already a change in bowling as Masabata Klaas in from the far end. And it looks as if South Africa are going to be doing a similar thing to England, and we've seen it's a good batting surface. If you keep changing those bowlers, there's no ability for the batters to settle. And she's an experienced bowler, lots of skills on display. And quickly, speaking of unfortunate ages again, there was a tweet earlier which said that Alice Capsey was making her England debut today alongside Katherine Brunn, who made her own England debut 10 days after Capsey was born.
I wonder if anyone's told Katherine that. Yeah.
I'm sure she's the one player in the team you don't want to tell. As Klaas in, bowls. This is spooned up in the air, but over the head of long on. Ismail, who was out there on the boundary, just was waiting an age for that ball to come down, and I'll admit I lost it slightly in the crowd. A fantastic shot from Dunkley. We saw just her skills on display last T20. I think she hit 3 sixes, and they were big ones too, and she's already opened the bank today. 14 for none, England.
Impressive to take the fielder on there. I don't think she quite meant to hit it with that elevation. Just beat her for a lack of pace, and just praying that it goes over the boundary. Just about got enough bat on it.
In comes Klaas in reply as that's drilled over her head for 4 runs by Sophia Dunkley. She is in fantastic form. She's strong down the ground. And Klaas there just, I mean, the first one wasn't a bad ball, as you say. From Sophia Dunkley's expression, it looked as if she thought she was going to be caught out on the boundary, but that one, she was in control.
Yes, and this step's a tiny little step outside the leg stump, and the ability to free her arms. There's not the same shape on show as there was from the other end, so Dunkley just able to free her hands through the ball and plays a lovely drive straight back down the ground.
Klaas needs a reply here. She's gone for 10 off 2 balls as that one slashed to the extra cover boundary for 4. Dunkley here just is in the form of her life, seeing the cricket ball like a beach ball. And Klaas here has no answers. 22 for none, England off 2.3. They're well up to date with this required run rate.
Crouched in her stance, takes a little step down the pitch, meets the ball on the half volley and just stands there and watches it go for 4. It's lovely timing, poor bowling, offering width there to Dunkley when your 2 fielders out were deep mid-wicket and long on. There has been a field change here. It's now long on and long off, so you'd imagine it's going to be full and straight or a change of pace here, but to try and stem the flow of runs.
In comes Klaas again, past the umpire, and that's a low full toss, pulled away through the inner ring on the leg side. Another 4 to Dunkley. She's on a roll, and it's just been poor bowling from Klaas. I mean, there's been this criticism of South Africa across this white ball series, and even in the test match, that their bowling attack was just quite samey, especially when Ismail wasn't there. But Klaas isn't offering much so far. It was a slower ball, but just not executed well, and Dunkley, who was already out of her crease, again takes that little step down the wicket. It's over so far, 6-4-4-4. What can she?
I really don't like this field that she's got long on and long off. Just it leaves so much of the ground to be hit.
In comes Klaas to Dunkley, and that's a shorter ball which has just been dinked to short third. She was actually fortunate there. It was short and wide, and if Dunkley had actually probably played a full-blooded cut shot, it would have been another boundary. But it feels awfully defensive from South Africa with a good total on the board, and yet suddenly you've got long on and long off in the third over.
Yeah, I think always as well in this situation where you've got a score that you can defend on the board.
As Klaas in, final ball of the over. This is spooned in the air. Ismail's underneath it, and the catch is taken. Finally, after that big over, 4 boundaries from it, and it's actually Sophia Dunkley, the one to go, just looking to play one too many big shots. Wasn't even the best of deliveries there from Klaas, and she'll be feeling quite fortunate. But England 26 for 1. A good catch from Ismail in the end.
Yes, good catch, around 10 yards inside the boundary at long on. I mean, what do I know? I said I didn't like the field, and she's been caught at one of the fielders who were placed outside the ring. But Sophia Dunkley guessing what the bowler was going to bowl there and just not quite connecting as she had hoped, looking to hit it over the head of Ismail out there at long on. But South Africa make the breakthrough in unconventional manner, and when you're, just as I said before, South Africa took that wicket, your intention should always be, when you've got a score on the board such as theirs, is to take wickets, and that's the only way that you stem the flow of runs, especially with the power in this England batting lineup and how deep they bat. Katherine Brunt coming in at number 9 today means that they're going to have to keep taking wickets all the way through this innings to give themselves a chance of winning this game.
And Bryony Smith, the batter coming to the crease, who is actually an opener for the South East Stars in the women's domestic competition. England, after a few years of chopping and changing with their openers, they've suddenly got choices of Danny Wyatt, Bryony Smith, Sophia Dunkley, Emma Lamb, Tammy Beaumont at the top of the order, and they've been spoilt for choice. But it's good to have a player like Bryony Smith coming in at this point now. She likes to make the most of the power play. There's a few big shots in her, and she'll enjoy this pace on the ball from Shabnim Ismail, who's changed ends, running away from us in our commentary position and bowling to Bryony Smith, who's slashing that into the offside, hit hard but finds the fielder at cover. No run, 26 for 1.
Lovely timing there from Bryony Smith off her first ball. Unfortunately picks the fielder out, but I think on this pitch it seems to be the way to bat is to just play strong shots. I think slogging across the line's not the way to go, as Sophia Dunkley showed us in the last over. But if you look to time the ball, if you beat this infield, it's always 4.
In comes Ismail, shorter ball, and that's soared past the head of Bryony Smith. She had no interest in playing that one. And that is the pace that Ismail offers, 69 miles per hour. But it seemed to just gather pace off the pitch, and it's really the first shorter delivery we've seen today on this surface.
Yeah, from what I can see from the way the wicket looks, it looks as though it's a hybrid, so the white ball can kiss through if it hits the shiny side.
In comes Ismail to Smith, who's pushing this through the covers, and this time she finds the gap. Just a bit too much whip from Ismail. Quick delivery. But as you mentioned, Stephen Finn, Bryony Smith looking to play that shot. She's got that cover drive, and she's got this little pull shot off her hip she plays on one leg, and really those are her strongest scoring shots.
Yeah, again, just looking to time the ball, pierces that gap between mid-off and extra cover. That shot causes a field change, which is the slip to come out to a squarer cover fielder. So there are now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fielders on the offside inside the ring looking to stop the cover drives of Bryony Smith.
Ismail, fourth ball of the over, bowls a leg stump line delivery which has worked to mid-wicket and misfield there from Tucker, and single taken, 31 for 1. Bryony Smith will be relieved to get to the other end. The way Ismail's bowling, and South Africa almost need her to be fired up. She's one of those bowlers where you need her to have a catch dropped off her bowling, and then you're going to see some proper scary stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to be the teammate that has to drop the catch to fire her up, though, I don't think, because I feel like you may get some stares for the rest of the day.
She runs in from the edge of the circle, bowls to Wyatt, who's working that down to third man. It's racing along, and another fourth to England, 32 for 1, 35 for 1, apologies. And Wyatt finding the boundary now. Over to the crowd, waving those 4 and 6 cards in the air. And England so far making this run chase look quite easy.
Yeah, again, Danny Wyatt just using the pace, width offered from Ismail. The fielder at deep third is so fine, it's almost like a deep slip. She needs to be at least 20 yards squarer from where she is now, and she'd have had a chance of cutting that off, but in a bit of no man's land at the moment down there.
In comes Ismail, and it's guided down to third again. Going at quite a pace, but that third fielder picks up. Single taken, finishes the fourth, 36 for 1 England. Wyatt on 8 and Bryony Smith at the other end, 5 off 4. I mentioned that firepower which England still has to come, and wickets at this point for South Africa. What do you do? Is there the early introduction of spin?
Yeah, I feel as though they probably need to change the pace. The England batters enjoying the pace on the ball at the moment, able to manipulate and manoeuvre the field or the ball into the gaps of the field to find the boundary and keep that scoreboard ticking along. Already at 36 for 1 from 4 overs, which is more than South Africa got in their entire power play, which I thought at the time was strange because the ball did look as though it was skipping onto the bat nicely. And I think South Africa, if we're being critical of the way they went about their innings, they were far too defensive in those first 6 overs with only 2 fielders outside the ring. But South Africa opting for a change of pace here to try and force the England batters' hands to try and find this wicket.
Chloe Tryon with her left arm spin. Used to be a seam bowler, but has since converted, and she'll be bowling to Danny Wyatt, who doesn't mind a bit of spin early on. She plays this beautiful extra cover drive over the inner ring. And it will be Tryon into her. It's a full ball, driven, and almost finds the gap. A good bit of work there from Mignon de Preez. 37 for 1. And Tryon's been quite effective against England in this series. One of the things you feel as if they've lacked has been a spinner who can really hold down one end. England have Sophia, and then they've had the success of Sarah Glenn in the 2020, Charlie Dean in the one-day cricket. But for South Africa, it's been a case of Malaba and Tryon with the ball for spin as she's in, and that's pushed into the onside in front of square by Smith. She's running hard and it bisects 2 fielders perfectly, allowing England to come back for 2, 39 for 1.
It's just the noticeable difference in the intent from the England batters, the intent to run 2s as well. I thought South Africa hit the ball into nice gaps and only ran 1s in the first innings.
In comes Tryon down the leg side and just tickled off the hip by Bryony Smith. Chase for the captain, Sune. And 2 runs taken again. It's that reoccurring trend in this series of England 41 for 1, where a few boundaries are hit and South Africa just feel flat. And in fact, Sune there chasing down that ball. The South African captain's at short fine leg. As in comes Tryon, and this is hit over her head and dropped at mid-off by Klaas there. It's not been her day so far for the South African quick. Went the distance in her first over, and now dropping a hard chance at mid-off. It's the wicket of Bryony Smith. A few hands on hips out there in the field, a few heads just looking at the ground. A big opportunity missed. Tryon in and down over mid-off this time. Danny Wyatt has raced down the ground and called for by the umpire. One bounce into the boundary rope. Really Wyatt playing a fantastic hand here now, and with her 13 off 7, he just feels if one wicket falls for England, the remaining batter at the crease is ready to step up into that attacking role.
Yeah, you'd say they're both set now in T20 cricket, having hit a couple of boundaries. You feel as though they're just getting into their innings, but how often does that happen? A drop and then the next ball gets hit for a boundary.
In comes Chloe Tryon to Wyatt, who's sweeping over the head of the inner ring. And that's another 4 runs. Absolute carnage out there as England bring up their 50. Fantastic work from the England top order, and just completely undoing the bowling of South Africa. Stephen Finn, how are they going to find a wicket and stem this flow of runs? And after your thoughts, it'll be Danielle Norcross.
Yeah, I think South Africa here are going to have to keep chopping and changing the bowling. I think spin did look handy that over and forced the mistake, but the drop catch unfortunately then led to 2 boundaries being hit off the last 2 balls, and that's that little swing in runs and pressure that can sometimes just deflate the fielding team to a point where the target just reels itself in quicker and quicker. So South Africa need to sharpen up, and good afternoon, Danielle Norcross.
Good afternoon. Ayabonga Khaka starts a new over. The first ball is flayed into the offside, but straight to extra cover. Mignon does the fielding, and there's no run. It's been a very good start from England, but shows what a good pitch it is, doesn't it?
Very good pitch. It looks like a hybrid to me from what I can see. The way that the grass is cut on the wicket, it's quite noticeably different to a normal cricket wicket.
Khaka in again. Smith gets a wide delivery. She reaches for. It's not been given as a wide. It's a fair way wide of off stump. She's having a look at the umpire, but she's going to get no joy from Steve O'Shaughnessy, which is, I dare say, a sentence that's been used many times by many a bowler.
Yes. No, well inside the wide line for me. Always favour the bowlers, me.
Khaka in. That's just tapped into the onside, but straight to forward square leg, and there is no run. Tell us what a hybrid is. People listening at home, what's a hybrid pitch?
A hybrid pitch is partially artificial grass, partially normal grass, and the artificial grass is there to make the ball just skip onto the middle of the batter's bat as if batters don't have more in their favour.
Not at all bitter. It's a bit of an appeal for LBW, this ball, snaking down the legs. Oh no! I think Steve O'Shaughnessy's just given her.
No celebration.
Well, this is extraordinary scenes. That ball looked like it was going down the leg side. Ayabonga Khaka appealed, and Bryony Smith has gone upstairs. She says, I'm not sure about this. There was only one person appealed there. There was very little celebration. And after a bit of thought, Steve O'Shaughnessy stuck his finger up. He's got a very pointy way of giving you out.
Yeah, I didn't realise if he was giving her out there, but you did say before the game Steve O'Shaughnessy's a giver, and judging by that, with only one person appealing, he's very much a giver.
He is. He's a very generous man. Right, let's take a little look at this. The third umpire is Rob Bailey. Oh, I think that's out.
That's a good shout. Yeah, why's the keeper not gone up for that?
Well, look, it's full-ish. It's hit on the knee roll in front of middle stump. Now, the optical illusion is that it's hit the back leg, and because that back leg has moved, there's no inside edge on this. We can see from Ultra Edge. Because the back leg then flicks away to the leg side, it gave the sort of impression that it was going down the leg side, but I think this is plumb. It is. England have lost a review, and they've lost a wicket. Bryony Smith has got to be on her way, and that is the most extraordinary wicket. I don't think anybody in the crowd really realised what was happening. Steve O'Shaughnessy was spot on with that. He's got it dead right after quite a long hesitation, and the wicket precisely that South Africa needed. England now 50 for 2. Bryony Smith goes for 10, and that brings England's captain for the day, Nat Sciver, out to the wicket.
Yeah, what a extraordinary 30 seconds of cricket that was. It just one person appealed. Everyone was just turning away to pick the ball up to move on to the next ball, and Steve O'Shaughnessy stuck his finger up. Then he had to stick it up again to tell the batter that she was out because she wasn't going to walk off. And then no one celebrated with the bowler. There wasn't even there was just everyone just sort of congregated in the middle of the wicket. So well done Steve O'Shaughnessy for staying true and sticking his finger up there. One more for the bowlers. Good on you.
Yeah, you've had a tough season, haven't you? I can tell.
Yeah, I took 7 wickets in 5 championship games, so any time an umpire sticks his finger up, it feels like an absolute surprise.
Yes, it's been one of those years. I can't remember, I'm getting too old. Was it 1990, 1991? It was sort of the year of this sort of weird Teflon ball Or was it called Tiflex?
No, that was 2011. That's actually I can tell you a story about a Tiflex ball that involves Worcester County Cricket Club.
Khaka into the new bat, and that's Sciver, and she push drives into the offside. There's no run, is it? Just fine, short extra cover.
It also involves this bloke who used to be able to take wickets called Stephen Finn. This is where I got my best ever first class analysis, bowling from the far end, the Diglis end, is it?
Diglis end.
Yeah, I took 5 in the first innings and 9 in the second, and we still lost.
Oh, that's disappointing. Full.
You sound
a
gutted.
Slower ball pushed into the onside by Sciver. She's off the mark with that single. 51 for 2. End of the 6th over. Good over from Ayabonga Khaka. She has been the pick of South Africa's bowlers in these 2 T20s so far. 2 overs, 1 for 4. The power play is over, and that has really clawed things back for South Africa. 14 wickets in the match. And
14 in the match, and we lost. Yeah, and it's also the scene of one of the funniest things I've seen in first-class cricket. Tim Murtagh was walking out to bat, and he got to the middle, and someone had stuck 2 cucumber sandwiches in each of his gloves, and he had to pick the cucumber sandwiches out of his gloves and leave them behind the stumps whilst he was batting.
When you say someone, was that you or John Simpson?
It wasn't either of us, no.
Oh.
I can't divulge who it was, but he left the club not long after.
Does Murtagh, has he ever found out?
Yeah, he knew. He knew afterwards. Yeah, we all got a strict telling off from the coach saying that it looked unprofessional that Tim had to pick cucumber sandwiches out of his gloves. Yeah.
Well, I suppose it does look unprofessional in a way, but it's a long old season, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to entertain yourself somehow.
Right, Chloe Tryon back in the attack. Her first over went for 14, and she's been bowling to Nat Sciver from the Diglis end. She comes left arm round the wicket, short, cut away into the offside, can't beat the fielder at backward point, Lara Wolvaardt. And there is no run. I must be thinking of another year. I think it was 1990 or 1991 when there were just mountains and mountains of runs. It feels like that season all over again. Down the wicket comes Sciver, and she plays a very controlled on drive right along the ground up towards long on, where Shabnim Ismail does the fielding.
Well, blokes scored 410 today. I think that may suggest. I played in the game last week where one bloke scored 270 and the other one scored 220. Pujara, who plays for us, has scored I think 500s, including 2 double centuries and 180.
That's quite the performance.
It's a lot of runs, yes.
As Tryon is in around the wicket, that's cut away into the offside. There is a sweeper out at deep extra cover. 1 run. Yes, there are only 2 Sussex players who've scored double hundreds at Lords. One is KS Ranjit Sindhi, the other Shea Pujara. They were born within about 100 miles of each other in India. Tryon into Sciver, goes back into a crease, punches off the back foot, but straight back to the bowler, who does a decent diving stop to her right, prevents the run. Runs are just drying up a little bit here. South Africa coming back into the game after the assault from Wyatt, Smith, and most importantly Sophia Dunkley with those 4 consecutive 4s earlier in the power play. Tryon in again down the leg side, wide. Signalled by umpire Sue Redfern. Attempted sweep, she couldn't quite catch up with it. 54 for 2. Tryon in again from the Diglis end, just 3 or 4 paces. That's short, slow, and slapped into the offside. Again, can't beat Wolvaardt at backward point. Been a couple of good overs, 1 ball left in the 7th. Can Tryon just finish this off? As Sciver's just trying to find her feet here.
Nice varying of pace actually as well, much like we saw Sophie Eccleston do in the first innings.
She's in now, Tryon. That's flighted and swept away for 4 by Nat Sciver. A little bit of width on the leg side, and this time Sciver did catch up with it. Got right on top of the ball and hit it along the ground to deep backward square leg. England finish the over, the 7th over of the innings on 58 for 2. Sciver has 6. Wyatt has 18. Wyatt's only faced 9 balls, you know, out of the first 42. She's been there from the beginning.
She has. She's watched a lot go on from the other end, but when she's had her opportunity, she's taken it to score. But a bit of ill discipline costing South Africa again there, really. The wide leading to the extra ball in the over. That extra ball gets hit for 4. They dropped a catch earlier 2 overs ago. The next 2 balls get hit for 4, and it's little lacks of discipline like that in T20 cricket that proves such a big swing when it comes to the end of the game, and those little margins that you look at and try and decipher between the 2 teams. Little things like that can be the difference. So South Africa will rue those if they come to lose this, which, if I'm being quite frank, at the moment looks highly possible. Is that too negative from me?
No.
It's quite honest.
No,
I'd
it's
say.
very honest. It was absolutely honest. I'm
good.
with you. I'm afraid I've been fairly negative about South Africa
That's
throughout
not like you.
this series.
You're negative about everything.
Steady.
Most things, apart from yourself.
Yes. Well, one has to remain have a certain degree of self-confidence to keep going. Especially given the podcast we do every week. The stick I get on that.
Yeah, well, you deserve it.
The experienced Masabata Klaas is back into the attack from the commentary box end. The first ball is full, straight, defended on the front foot by Wyatt. It goes to Ayabonga, Khaka at short extra cover, and there's no run. Wind picking up here, just ever so slightly, as the weeping willows, sycamores and maples. Can you tell them apart?
No.
No?
No, they're like bits of wood with leaves hanging off them.
Yeah, that's trees for you.
I'm a horticulturist. Is that right?
Well, yeah, but you don't know it. You're a horticulturalist. Yeah.
You're a realist, yeah.
Klaas in, full, and then guided to backward point, but Wyatt can't beat the fielder. And again, there's no run. We just had a few dot balls just creeping in here. Target 149, England 58 for 2 in the 8th over. They won't be concerned yet, but South Africa just getting a bit of discipline into their players. Deep third comes up inside the ring. Deep mid-wicket, Lara Wolvaardt runs back out to the boundary. We've got a long on. Fine legs come up as well. So that's a bit of an indicator this ball is likely to be full, you would imagine. As Klaas is into Wyatt, it is full, and she just guides this to the left of backward point. It's running away towards the boundary. It won't make it all the way there. A good sliding stop will prevent, well, it'll save one run in the end, as they got back for 3. Good running between Sciver and Wyatt. They're two very good runners, very different build. Wyatt, wiry and athletic. Sciver, a little bit bigger, longer stride length, more like you.
I met Danny Wyatt's dad actually on the way into the ground.
Yeah.
And her mum, her parents. Yeah, they said, "Oh, we're Danny Wyatt's parents," and you could have picked them out from a crowd because they're diminutive figures, you'd have to say. Lovely, but diminutive.
Klaas into Sciver, who swings at this and misses as the ball goes through low to Sinalo Jafta behind the stumps, and there's no run. It's a very, very partisan crowd, this. This is often the case. But whenever South Africa do anything well, you hear next to nothing. It's a little bit like being in sort of an England-India game in Mumbai when Kohli's out.
That is an interesting experience.
I bet. You'd have done that, I guess. Short, pulled out through mid-wicket. That's been hit murderously fast, but Wolvaardt is able to move around from her left deep mid-wicket to field and prevent the boundary. One more to the total, 62 for 2, Sciver to 7.
Yeah,
Wyatt back on strike.
Sorry, Dan. This is good from South Africa here, manoeuvring the field, making the batters think about things. I think sometimes it's easy to drift in this scenario, but the bowler changing her pace, mixing it up, making herself get hit to her fielders, and hopefully no boundary off this last ball.
Last ball, Klaas in, slower ball, much slower ball, and it's been cut away out towards deep extra cover, but there is a sweeper. Sciver wants a second. Wyatt says no. She's happy to keep the strike. It wasn't really there. So at the end of the 8th over, England 63 for 2, Sciver 7, Wyatt 22. Stephen Finn is taking his lead, and he's going to go and administer to the good people of 5 Live for the rest of the day. And as we welcome back Melinda Farrell, who is back in the country, back on form,
and back on the radio.
back in the room.
Getting past Stephen Finn. He's a slender man, he's very tall, so the manoeuvring in the press box getting around. I have a wonderful photo. I interviewed him during the Ashes, and they quite literally, this is on camera, they literally had to bring out a set of stairs.
Oh, for you.
For me to stand on.
And you're not the shortest.
I'm not the shortest. The funniest one, I've got an even better photo when I once interviewed Boyd Rankin, and I look like Frodo's little sister. I do look like a little hobbit.
Well, Boyd's got a little bit of the look of the Shire to him, hasn't he, as well? So there's a little bit going on there. Delmi Tucker is into the attack. I'm not going to ask you about her because not many people have seen Delmi Tucker play. So just sit back and enjoy as she bowls a flat off spinner, which is pulled away. First ball to the boundary for 4. A loose delivery, a drag down, just 46 miles an hour, and Danny Wyatt loves it there. She waits for it and slaps it.
Well, it was aerial for a while, but she picked the gap and just bisected the fielders beautifully, leaned back and such a Danny Wyatt shot, isn't it? To lean back, open the shoulders, just slap it through the leg side.
Khaka in again, short again, this time on the offside. Now it's been cut away through backward point. That's going to run away to the boundary for 4 more. This isn't good stuff from Khaka. 2 short balls, just letting, after that pressure, letting England get away again here and letting Danny Wyatt get going. She's only faced 15 balls out of the first 50 of the innings. Bearing in mind she did open the batting, but she's getting some real rhythm into her batting now.
Well, if you're going to go short and you're going to give width either side of the wicket, Danny Wyatt loves playing at square, so it doesn't matter which side it's on.
Now tell me, in Australia, you use the word tucker, as tucker is in. Short, cut away again, but this time can't beat Wolvaardt at backward point for grub, don't you?
Yeah.
Great tucker.
Yeah, tucker.
Yeah.
Tucker box.
A tucker box?
Yeah. There's a famous statue of a dog on a tucker box at Gunnedah. All that people
I like the word famous. This is driven up to long off for a single by Wyatt, this time fuller.
Yeah.
Better length.
So when you're driving to Sydney to Melbourne, it's quite a thing to stop and see the dog on the tucker box.
At where?
It's at Gunnedah.
Gunnedah. Short, pulled away again, this time by Sciver between mid-wicket and square leg. They'll come back for a second, will they? They will. Throws on its way, but Sciver's home safely. The ball actually cannons off her bat, but she won't take another run for that. 2 more to the total, 74 for 2. A dog in a tucker box.
It's taken me a bit coming back here after a few years to get into the, you heard me, debut.
Tucker in again. Back to the bowler by Nat Sciver, all along the ground. End of the over, 11 from it. Just the impetus England wanted after just being dragged back a little bit. 74 for 2 there. Here is halfway to their total of target of 149. Wyatt 31 from 17, Sciver 9 from 11.
Yeah, theoretically they should cruise it, but there's a couple of wickets gone. If they lose a couple, they've got a few fresher faces in the batting lineup, so South Africa might be able to just turn the screws a little bit. But
so what are you doing to get that wicket, do you think? Is it a matter of getting Khaka and Ismail on, or are they looking to just burgle a couple of overs?
Yeah, well, I mean, we saw Khaka bowl really well. When England were bowling, taking pace off the ball worked quite well. Particularly, we saw Katherine Brunt and Nat Sciver do that to good effect. England rotated their bowlers frantically, didn't they?
It was frantic.
It was 1 over spells, essentially. So they were mixing it up a lot, as we see Anneke Bosch coming into the attack now.
She opened the batting. She batted very well. Let's see how she gets on with the ball. From the commentary box end, from our end. She runs away from us. And, Wyatt drives at this and it goes through extra cover. It's not a great piece of fielding. They'll pick up a couple. It won't make it all the way to the boundary because there is both a deep extra cover and a wide-ish long off. But 2 more when there should probably have been none. 76 for 2, Wyatt to 33.
Yeah, you can't afford that on a pitch that really is a belting batting pitch, it looks, and nice fast outfield. The ball's running along the carpet very, very briskly.
Really is, isn't it? Some lovely conditions for batting. Bosch in, right arm over, and that's been an attempted marmalise. Well, now throw comes in at the bowler's end. At that hit, I think Wyatt would have been in trouble. As Sciver called her through for a single off, the ball just cannoned off the pads, and the keeper, Jafta, ran to her right, picked it up, threw at the non-striker's end. Wyatt was just home. If you had a chance to sit, well, hang on, has she been given that as a run? Because if she has, that is Danny Wyatt's 2,000th run in T20. She's got a great average of 21.5, but she's batted a lot down the order as Bosch is in to Sciver, who just works this foolish ball up to long on, where Chloe Tryon does the fielding.
Now, you just mentioned average. Segue, I did want to mention, I know you love a good stat.
Yes, please.
Now, Talia McGrath, the Australian all-rounder.
I do.
She has been playing over in Ireland, right? And she's played 8 T20 internationals now, 4 innings, as Anneke Bosch comes in. Anticipation rises.
She does. That's been walloped by Wyatt out towards deep extra cover. That's just be the 1 run at 79 for 2.
So she's batted 4 times and she's scored 247 runs. But she's been not out 3 times. So her average at the moment in T20s is 247, 24/7.
Oh, she's there for us every day of the week.
Yes.
Every hour of the day.
Great start.
Bosch in, that's driven, but with no power. Back to the bowler by Sciver. It was on the sort of leg stump. There's no. That is a great start. 24/7.
I knew you'd love that. I've been saving that for you because I know you just like a good number like that.
Well, Talia McGrath is quite the player. She reminds me quite a bit of Sciver, actually. She's a similar sort of build, similar sort of pugnacious batter in the middle order. She bowls a very heavy ball. Last ball of Bosch's over has been elegantly driven up to wide long off. They'll only be the single. England are halfway through their overs. 10 overs gone. They're 80 for 2. They made a fine start. Sciver 11, Wyatt 35. Just need another 69 with 8 wickets in hand. They are they cruising? There's got to be a way back into this game for South Africa, but it has to be through wickets. To talk you through how that might happen will be Melinda Farrell, and then for the next 5 overs, it'll be Melissa Story.
Yeah, well, I think it might be the job of the spinners, or maybe a few slower balls, taking the pace off, just something to slow this scoring down and maybe run up a few dot balls together and see if they can force the mistake.
Hello, Mel Squared reunited. We have a drinks break again. I'm not sure drinks breaks, have they always been a thing in T20s? Was this a pre-anticipated drinks break in the wake of the weather we've had recently?
Yeah, maybe. I thought that they usually do. But I mean, nowadays you have the tactical timeout of them, don't you?
Yeah,
That's
when are we going to see those in international games?
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
No, it's hard as a commentator when you've suddenly got to think of something to say for 2 minutes 30 when you're having advertisements thrown in your face. But
well, the whole idea of T20 was meant to be short and sharp, and then the games start to balloon out. Although, having said that, today, first time commentating on a women's match for a few months, and it just blows me away again how quick it is, especially when the spinners are on. It's like bang.
You go to the toilet and you come back and you're on air again, but that's not to suggest you do go to the toilet for 5 overs though. So. But just to overemphasise that one.
Too much information, I think. That comes under that basket.
But it's been fantastic batting from the England pair so far, and actually good to see Danny Wyatt out there and scoring at such a rate. As you mentioned your stat for Daniel Norcross. Now I've been doing a bit of stat work in the absence of Phil Long, and obviously there was the recent dropping of Tammy Beaumont, and the kind of reasoning behind that being that they wanted her to work on her strike rate. And looking at the top England batters, when they have these good strike rates, but when they play the best team, which is Australia, plenty of the England bowlers' strike rates actually drop dramatically. So Sciver, her strike rate drops down dramatically against Australia to just 106. Heather Knight's drops down to 107. Amy Jones's drops down to 74 in T20 internationals. The only difference to this is Danny Wyatt. She's the only batter whose average and strike rate holds up against Australia. And actually her average is so much higher against India as well, who's a fantastic team. So if anything, a few of the England batters in this side need to be taking a look at Danny Wyatt. She's 35 of 20 balls and go, this is the strike rate the modern game is moving at. There's quite a few young players as well. Of course, Alex Capsey in this game, Bryony Smith, who strike the ball at quite a good rate. Chloe Tryon with the ball in hand, bowling to Nat Sciver. That's down the leg side, just hits her on the pad and they sneak through for a single. 80 for 1 for 2.
Bit of a hesitation again. There's been a few times through this game with the running between the wickets. A little communication issue at times. Not sure whether to commit or not.
Maybe there's a sneaky South African fielder. Now, this is something we've done in club cricket before, me and a few of my friends, when it's been a bit of a dead rubber kind of situation. There's no way we're going to win it. As Chloe Tryon continues, and that's just yorking herself there was Wyatt, looking to play an expansive shot down the ground, but just has to slam her bat down on it, where we stand in the field and you do just say yes or no for the batters. You call for them in the covers. Now, it's not very sporting of us, I must say. It's Tryon in, shorter ball, punched off the back foot by Wyatt, but finds the fielder. And may I add that this is when I'm playing Saturday 4th 11 cricket, when probably about 20 runs is needed off 30 overs. And I am hanging out with 15-year-old boys, so this level of immaturity comes into the game as Tryon bowls, and this time she gets hold of it. Wyatt down the ground, over the head of mid-off. A few bounces into the boundary rope, and you know what, I don't think she even got hold of that one completely, but she finds the boundary. 39 off 23 balls now, making this run chase look easy. 85 for 2.
Yeah, mid-off was up, and she just had to give it enough to clear, really. She got plenty of height on it, perhaps not the distance that she wanted.
She's searching for that 6 as Tryon in, and this time again the same shot. There's a fielder out there, and a spectacular catch from the captain, Sune. She was actually at a deep extra cover, and she's ran all the way round the boundary rope. It's a diving catch. I think she's taken that whilst in the air, and it had to take something magnificent to remove Danny Wyatt from the crease, and the captain has done just that, although Danny Wyatt's waiting around in the middle, and it seems that this catch is being reviewed.
It certainly looked like it was a clean catch.
It said England review. Does this count as one? So it's not an umpire's review, it's England using up one of their reviews.
Well, that's very interesting. It looked clean from here. It was a brilliant effort. She sprinted around. The ball was coming down in a similar spot to the previous ball. As the replay happens now, well, it may be checking if it came out, but that looked clean as a whistle, and it was. She did brilliantly. It just got her fingers underneath it as she went for the full stretch, and there was absolutely no question of it popping out as she got to the ground. She kept her one hand with the ball in it above the ground, so she did a really great job there.
Yeah, it's always though when the elbows hit the surface, it's when the ball pops out, but she almost had her hand up in a claw-like shape with the ball grabbed in it, almost as if how a zombie would come out of the grave with one hand. And she was clinging onto it, white-knuckled. Fantastic catch from Sune Lee, just showing it can change a game in the field. A bit of work like that, I mean, it's still a quite simple equation for England, but a few more wickets now, and South Africa just chip away on this England lineup. England 85 for 3. And Amy Jones comes to the crease. She's gone up the order a little bit, and she's probably looking for a few runs. She's had a bit of a dry spell for a while with England, but this is a perfect opportunity for her with Nat Sciver at the other end. In comes Chloe Tryon, bowling to Sciver, who's working this easily off her legs out to deep mid-wicket, takes a single. Score moves on to 86 for 3.
Well, South Africa, I think they've just basically got to go right. It's wickets. It's wickets or nothing. That's the only way that they're going to win. Whether it's slowing the scoring even by taking wickets, getting new batters in, seeing if they can get down to some of those less experienced players. Otherwise, you just can't see England struggling to get these runs. But still, an improvement. They've at least put on a score, South Africa, that is defendable. It's just the conditions today. They just look absolutely sublime for batting.
And I guess looking at, as I said, their previous score, this score looks good, but reading on this wicket and ahead of the Commonwealth Games, where there's going to be a few hybrid pitches, it's going to be fantastic for batting on. Maybe around that 150 mark isn't enough against teams like England or Australia, who just keep hitting you with those batters. Anneke Bosch continues, and that's just hit into the pads. A bit of spin there, and it's past the fielder at short third. That's Klaas down there, and Tucker having to clean up that slight misfield. England run through for 2 runs, 88 for 3.
It was an odd misfield because it was just very, very lackadaisical as she sort of just reached over the ball. Maybe there was a bit of an odd bounce or something, but she was nowhere near it as she stuck her hand out.
It's Malaba there at short third as Bosch in. Slower ball Yorker, just driven to Ismail at extra cover, no run. 88 for 3. Yeah, it was, unless maybe she's a bit short-sighted almost, or long-sighted, and there was a ball, I know, or sometimes I know when I've got my glasses on in the field, there seems to be a ball 2 inches up higher than the one which is actually coming to me.
I'm going to suggest that if you are short-sighted, then you're probably going to have a bit of an issue in cricket.
In comes Bosch, and that's outside the off stump, just drilled past her, down to Chloe Tryon at long on, and a casual single taken, 89 for 3. Well, so I am quite short-sighted, so I wear contact lenses, and I actually quite unfortunately had to be retired blind once in a game.
Wow.
Where my contact lens got blown out by a gust of wind. I couldn't see the ball at all. There was no other result because it would have taken me so long and delayed the game. So they sent me off retired blind, and I don't think I came back on the pitch. And actually the umpire returned my contact lens to me at the end of the game, which was pleasant. As Bosch in full, driven firmly past her by Jones to get off the mark. Another single, 90 for 3, 59 needed from 50 balls. England, and it's quite an easy equation with wickets in hand at the moment. It's up to South Africa to make it hard for them here.
I have to say, I'm quite impressed that the umpire found your contact lens.
Well, they're also not, reusable ones. They're disposable ones. So Bosch bowls, and that's a thick edge past short third. Malaba there has to just retrieve that ball from the boundary rope. And a lucky boundary there for Sciver. She moves on to 19, 94 for 3 the score, 55 needed from 49 now for England. So yeah, it was one of those ones where probably didn't want the old dry grass covered contact lens returned to put back into one of my eyes.
No.
But it was a nice gesture from the umpire. In comes Bosch again, bowling to Sciver, slower ball, driven through the covers out to that sweeper. Good bit of work out there.
And just making it hard. We talked about the slower ball and the pace off maybe being key, because when the ball, that's the end of the over actually, 95 for 3 England, the end of Anneke Bosch's over. It's a sort of, I don't know, just something different. Take off the pace. The ball's just flying off, whether it hits the edge or hits the middle of the bat. It is flying around here. So just trying something a little bit different to see if they can pick up a couple more wickets. At least give England something to think about.
It's just too comfortable for England at the moment, and it's all full credit for them and the way they acted in the power play. I mean, at this stage, South Africa was 77 for none, England 95 for 3. So yes, they've lost wickets in the process, but they've gone out there and been attacking. And you often hear teams say that they're happy to lose 2 wickets in the power play as long as it's not 3. And that was the case for England, but because they bat so deep, Katherine Brunt at 9, they have that licence to just go out there and play those hard-hitting shots, and it's why even those faintest of edges are finding the boundary. So it will be Masabata Klaas into Amy Jones. She's bowling that. That's Sciver, apology, and that's struck back at her hard there. Klaas has galloped about there, flicking her heels in the air, trying to shake off that blow to her ankle, to her leg. Just having a look at this one. It's a low full toss, and actually just smacked back into her hands, her fingers.
Might have been it looked like the top of a finger, which nasty.
In comes Klaas, and good slower Yorker just dropped into the onside, shy at the stumps there from Tucker. England sneaked through for a quick single. 53 needed from 46. I was a very regular proponent of the crocodile fingers catch. I must say, I've taken a few blows to the finger recently, and they hurt when you struck right on the end. And you've just spotted Serve Island that
was the nutmeg.
We've seen the nutmeg and the big grin on Nat Sciver's face after playing that shot. She loves playing that one. I mean, who wouldn't if you've got a shot named after you? In comes Klaas again, and that's just worked off the hip by Sciver. Wristily and bisects those 2 fielders at short fine leg and square leg. The ball just slows up before the boundary rope.
Unusual to see the ball slowing up. They've all been going at great pace to the boundary.
Jones on 3 and Sciver at 21 at the other end. 98 for 3 England, 51 needed off 45. Not sure what the solution is here for South Africa. Klaas continues. Got a long run up as she bowls to Jones. Slower ball, just dropped in front of square on the onside and races along to the deep mid-wicket field. A single taken, 99 for 3. And those last 2 shots from Jones and Sciver, it feels as if they've barely stroked the ball, and it really has just raced away.
But again, a slower ball, only got a single. And that was the same, even the nutmeg shot with the slower Yorker that she played between her legs or through her legs. It definitely is the way to slow things down.
Amy Jones. Sciver on strike, apologies, driving to extra cover. And no run. 99 for 3. I'm getting these two mixed up. Maybe, talking of long-sighted, short-sighted, maybe it's a time for an appointment at the opticians.
Well, I have to keep moving backwards and forwards. There is a pole that's, if I sit at a certain angle, the pole is right in the middle of the pitch between the two batters. So I just have to sort of move across now and again so they're not obscured.
In comes Klaas, and this is just ramped by Nat Sciver, past the keeper, down to fine leg for another 4. Fantastic batting from Nat Sciver. She's in the form of her life, and it brings up England's 100. Storming along and proud here. Grateful of this innings so far from the 103 for 3. Klaas not having a good day of it. She's gone for 31 off her 3 overs so far. And interestingly enough, we haven't seen any spin yet from Malava. Tash Barrett has rejoined us, just sorting out the microphone. I mean, not much to comment on really here for England. It's been fantastic work from the batters, but put yourself in the South African shoes. What are you doing at this point to stem the flow?
Yeah, for sure. I think Khaka's coming on now. She obviously bowled really well in the last game, and they kind of really need a wicket here because England only needs sort of 6.5 and over, and at the moment that's pretty easy doing for them. So Nat Sciver's obviously come in the fine form that she's in, just easily going at run a ball, and Khaka going to look to try and find the breakthrough here, try and get into England's middle order of their new batters of Capsey and Bosch.
It's good to see here, just quickly, Sinalo, Jafta behind the stumps, just having a bit of involvement here in the fielding position, sorting out those angles. As Khaka in, slower ball, fuller, and just worked out to deep mid-wicket. I've really
enjoyed watching Jafta actually throughout this summer. She's a bundle of energy behind the stumps, especially when she's up to the stumps in the test match. You could hear her every single ball. She was relentless with her energy, and that's just what South Africa needs. So hopefully she can bring some energy here and try and find that wicket.
In comes Khaka, faster delivery, leg stump line, and it's just tickled round the corner by Sciver for a single. Ismail fields on the boundary, 105 for 3. Yeah, she's a good character, and good to see her playing in this T20 squad. And you know, it's always a good sign when your wicketkeeper's just stepping up and helping out the captain, Sune, who's had a bit of a tough time this series and has often found herself in quite inconspicuous fielding positions at fine leg. As Khaka bowls, slow ball just pushed back to her by Amy Jones. Good bit of bowling there from Khaka, and well, it's never really ideal if your captain's putting herself at deep fine leg and anything like that. You've got to be involved in the game. I mean, one thing I learnt the hard way when I got turned into a captain was that you have to field extra cover a lot. The ball gets hit at you really hard. It's horrible. In comes Khaka. It's a slower ball and not timed by Jones. Pulled into the onside, but it's good running from England. They get through for 2, and South African fielders there just sat back on their heels. Lara Wolvaardt, the ball barely made it out of the inner ring in the end, but England were quite alert to the fact that she hadn't moved much off the boundary. The score moves on to 107 for 3.
Yeah, these two, they've known each other for a long time. They went to Loughborough University together, and they didn't even have to look at each other there. They just knew that was 2 straight off the bat.
In comes Khaka, slower ball again, driven down the ground to long off and fielded by Tryon. Another single, 109 for 3.
Well, going back to Jafta, I think a keeper is so important in a team. I can't remember what coach said to me, but they're like the drummer of the band. They keep the tempo. They either slow it down or quicken it up and get those fielders between overs going.
In comes Khaka again. This is tickled into the vacant square leg region. Another single taken, 40 needed off 36 balls at the end of the 14th over. Fantastic work from Khaka again, who's only gone for 10 runs off her 3 overs and has picked up a crucial wicket. And I mean, looking at the wicket-keeping options, they've of course got Trisha Chetty, who's the keeper in the ODIs, but she's 34 years old and not sure how many more years they'll get out of her. But Sinalo Jafta, she's 27 years old, and just from the confidence she's exerting in the field, you can see her stepping into that role as the full-time keeper for the Proteas.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Chetty is an unbelievable keeper, actually. I think what South Africa need from these keepers is actually being able to come in and produce some runs with the bat. Obviously, last T20 it's brilliant to see Jafta came in and I think hit Sophia for a 6, her second ball, which was brilliant. She got in quite late today, but yeah, I think that's what South Africa are looking for. They've got these great keepers, but they need to try and be able to contribute with the bat, especially lower down the order, and coming in and hitting at a good strike rate from the off.
Now, speaking of wickets needed, Shabnim Ismail has been brought back into the attack for South Africa. You feel as if with 40 needed off 36 balls, this is the make or break time.
Yeah, South Africa going in for the kill here with their 2 best bowlers, Khaka and Ismail. I think it's a really good option because I think England are going to cruise this, so they really need to try and get a couple of quick wickets to try and break this partnership that's going so nicely.
In comes Ismail then. Bowls a quicker delivery in. Sciver has a waft at that one outside the off stump. She rocks her head back in disappointment about not making contact with that one. But there's an interesting field here because that first delivery from Ismail, I think we both spotted this, as it was a full pace delivery at 74 miles per hour. Yet she has fine leg and third inside the ring, and really a V kind of field, suggesting she needs to be bowling full and taking the pace off the ball. But in she comes again. Bowl, slower ball, tickled round the corner and finds the fielder at short fine leg. Quite fortunate there, Shabnim Ismail, and dramatic change in pace from 74 miles per hour that last ball to 62.
This is very unlike Shabnim Ismail. I've played with her a bit now at the Oval Invincibles and at the Fair Break competition, and she rarely doesn't have a third and a fine leg. So this is a different tactic from her. I'm not sure about that first ball bowling full pace outside off with no cover or third man. So it's interesting to see what she's going to do here.
She charges in to Sciver, shorter ball, just pulled away and bounces once before the deep square fielder. Single taken, and Sciver just looking at the edge of her bat there, didn't make the correct contact with that one, but England move on to 110 for 3. Just to our right, we have a few dark clouds just seeping in over the ground here. And looking at some weather apps, suggested that there may just be the smallest shower on the forecast coming up, but hopefully not too much to disrupt this game. I mean, the England men played for a full-blown flood, I think, yesterday in their game. The umpires never took them off. In comes Ismail, slower ball and dropped by the bowler. It just gripped in the surface there. Amy Jones playing back to her, and if Ismail had maybe been a few inches taller there, could have been a great catch.
Need to see this again, but it looks like she got a good hand on it. I think she'll be disappointed not to take that, although what I will say, I don't catch many off my own bowling. It is so hard to judge when you're through on your follow through.
Ismail in, and that's a Yorker, but strikes Sciver on the pad. She was looking to paddle this one over her left shoulder as fine legs up in the ring. South Africa coming together to discuss whether they should review this one upstairs. There's been no indication so far. And the DRS timer is up, so it looks as if they won't go for that one. They had 2 reviews in the bank, or they have gone for the review. That was a subtle T sign. I think actually, if anything, the Sky cameras, the camera crew here, had the angles pointed at Mignon, who's actually the ex-South African captain, so we missed the signal from Sune. But South Africa need to try anything here, and I think the correct decision from them with 2 reviews available. Just looking at this ball, it's a full Yorker length delivery from Shabnim Ismail, which hits Sciver on the front pad, but of course she was in a front on position facing Ismail, looking to play that ramp. And what are your thoughts, Tash Farron?
I think it's probably going down. You kind of see all 3 stumps there. It's not a bad shout though. I think they've definitely got to get a wicket here, so I mean, I might be wrong. As I said before earlier on comms, I've done an umpiring course and I was absolutely terrible, which doesn't bode well being a bowler.
I'm quite a trigger happy umpire as well, I must say. I've been forbidden from umpiring for my Saturday men's team anymore at the umpire's end, because It's an awkward car journey home if you give a teammate out. But looking at this, it's impact in line, but the ball missing the stump. It was close as anything in the end, actually, but even if the wickets had been clipping, it was originally given not out on the pitch. No luck for South Africa, 38 needed from 31 balls. But Ismail making things happen in this over.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that hurt, actually. It looked like it hit her straight on the toes. I hope she's got some good shoes on. That bit of a toe cut on there. But yeah, Ismail really making things happen in this over. So trying to apply a bit of pressure, and I think this funky feels trying to get Nat Sciver to actually go for the ramp, and it sort of a you miss I hit approach, and it's working quite well for Ismail at the moment. Just needs to get that wicket.
Final ball of the over then from Ismail, which is driven into the covers. A misfield by Klaas at cover. They get through for a single, 112 for 3, 37 needed off 30 balls. I mean, I've always wondered why cricket shoes don't have like a small sheet of metal or something in them at the end, just because it really hurts when the ball hits the end. But I'm sure for aerodynamic reasons that wouldn't be practical. So a few thoughts from you, Tash Farron, and then it will be Daniel Norcross.
Yeah, I think be interesting to see who Sune Lease goes to here, because South Africa just had a really good couple of overs there. They haven't quite got the wicket, but they've definitely dried up Amy Jones and Nat Sciver's scoring rate. So they've gone to Bosch. Hopefully she can keep applying this pressure, just try and make something happen here for South Africa.
Yep, they're getting closer, aren't they? Closer, but not quite getting the rub of the green at the moment. Anneke Bosch is back into the attack. And England require 37 from 30 balls. Bosch, right arm over the wicket from the pavilion end. He's into Sciver, full toss, is swept away for 4. A loose delivery, shin high full toss down the leg side. Well, that is not what South Africa require at this stage, and England now just need 33 from 29.
Yeah, I mean, just a full toss down leg side there with no fine leg or square leg. Not what we were saying just a moment ago about South Africa trying to keep applying this pressure, and it just feels like that's just relieved all the pressure there, and you can't bowl there to Nat Sciver. She's going to punish you every single time.
Exactly. Fine leg is up. There is no square leg. This is driven firmly back past the bowler. On the bounce down to long off, where is that Sune Luus fielding it long off.
Yeah, she's kind of been at deep cover. She obviously took that great catch. She was at deep fine leg last over, and now she's at long off. So quite strange for the captain to sort of be on the boundary. Normally Shabnim Ismail's on the boundary, but she's in at extra cover there.
So's Tryon and so's Wolvaardt, all on the boundary, all the senior players. Wide of the off stump, a sort of attempted cut by Jones, misses. Looks to Steve O'Shaughnessy, but no, will not be a wide.
Yeah, strange not to have Sune Lease sort of near Bosch. She's relatively new to international cricket, and South Africa need to make something happen here, and maybe she sort of fancies herself on the boundary after taking that absolute screamer of a catch, but she's quite far away from the bowler there, so it's a strange call.
Odd place for a skipper to be. Bosch in, slower balls, whipped away up to deep mid-wicket, wide long on, and Tryon is around quickly, flings the ball in left-handed, looks well there, keeps them to just a single, 31 from 26 needed, brings Sciver back on strike. She likes it here at Worcester. She got one of her mega quick ODI 50s at Worcester against Pakistan back in 2016. As Bosch runs into her now, and that's a little attempted reverse sweep. Just gets the toe end of the bat on it, really. It rolls to point just in front of square, more like a cover. They get through for a single, 30 needed from 25 now.
I think England, especially Sciver here, and actually also Amy Jones, they'll want to be here at the end, but they won't want to do it in the last over. They'll want to make sure that they do it with an over or two to spare, so they're going to keep trying to apply pressure back on the South Africa bowlers, and definitely Nat Sciver with that little reverse ramp there. She's going to kick on here.
Bosch in to complete the over. She's into Jones. Jones drives firmly, but out towards deep extra cover. Lease runs round to her left to field. They thought about 2, but it wasn't there. End of the over, 120 for 3, 29 required from the last 4 overs. Jones 11 from 11, Sciver 35 from 35, so they're each striking at 100. England need to go a little bit quicker than that, but they got plenty of time to do it, plenty of wickets in hand. Just a little reminder on the DLS par score. Now, I only mention this because the clouds are grey and looming. I don't think it's forecast to rain. There's a little bit of wind whipping up. And the DLS par at the end of the next over is 120. It's sometimes slightly confusing. You look up there and is that the DLS par now? No, it's DLS par score at the end of the 17th over, is my understanding. That's right, isn't it, Tash?
I think so.
I think it is, yeah.
I think I might have just learnt something new today, which is slightly embarrassing, but every day's a school day.
Well, England are 120 for 3 now, so if they scored 1 run and then the heavens came down, then they would win. As Chloe Tryon is going to come in from the Diglis end, far end of the ground from us. Jones on strike.
She did that a few times last game. She will sort of run up and I don't know if she's not got her rhythm right, but then she doesn't release the ball. I remember Laura Marsh used to do that the whole time, but it's when a batter would move in the crease, and I remember opposition getting really upset with her always doing it, but I'm not sure that's why she stopped there. I think she lost her run up there.
She's in now, short, and that's cut away, but can't beat Wolvaardt at point, and there is no run. We've got a packed offside field, 4 in the ring on the offside, and a long off is back, as well as a long on to the left arm spinner, a deep mid wicket, deep square leg, fine leg is up, so there's a lot of space on the onside. No one saving one there. This has been pulled behind square for 4, short. Actually a pretty filthy delivery from Chloe Tryon, dragged it down towards the leg side, and that's really been the source of a couple of England boundaries in these last 8 balls, which has taken all the pressure off, all the pressure that they've been building from those previous deliveries, and this it is a drag down, and Jones is able to pick her spot to the left of fine leg and to the right of the deep square. Tryon in again. That's short again, been pulled out on the bounce. 1 bounce to deep mid wicket for a single. 24 needed from 21. Jones moves to 16.
Don't know if it would be worth sort of getting a mid wicket into Amy Jones here. She's been out a few times in the last year there. They only sort of need a run of ball.
Sciver on strike. She drives at this through the covers. She'll pick up 1. They may think of a second as long off runs to her left. They do. And they're going to get home comfortably. Good running from Amy Jones. She's very spry and athletic.
Yeah, really good running from these two. Just on that, Amy Jones having the mid-wicket in. It's a risk-reward thing, because she does play the reverse sweep really well, but if you try and get her to play that shot and miss a straight one, then obviously that's what England want, try and get that wicket.
Try it in. To order. This time it's Sciver who plays the reverse sweep, but gets it much, much finer than perhaps she was intending. She got that through almost a sort of second slip region. Down to the boundary for 4. And now England are zeroing in on victory. What would be their 5th white ball victory in 5 games against South Africa. Maybe she was trying to get it there, actually. After looking at the replay, she's got that exceptionally fine. There is a backward point. Well, there's a sort of short third, really, and a point. As Tryon's in again, and Sciver just punches this off the back foot up towards long on and trots through for a single, so she'll keep strike at the end of the 17th over. England needs 17 more from 18 balls. Sciver 42, Jones 16.
I think Khaka and Ismail have an over each left, and I think one of them needs to come on now, because if you leave them too late, this game's going to be gone. And surprised actually Ismail didn't bowl out that over. I think she was creating loads of pressure that last over, and yeah, they just sort of relieved a bit of pressure there. Looks like they've gone
Klaas, have they?
for Klaas.
I'm absolutely with you there, Tash. It doesn't make sense to me. This is sort of what I mean by the captaincy. The game is going to run away from South Africa before Ismail and Khaka get the chance to bowl. You know, I mean, we always talk about you probably bowl your best bowler for the 19th over. And here, what's happening is the 18th over is going to be bowled. A bowler who's gone for 31 in her first 3. If she goes for 10 off this, then somehow those 2 bowlers have got to try and keep England to 7 runs in 2 overs. It's not realistic. They've got to get a wicket.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, she might prove us wrong here, but she has gone for 10s. Yeah, so an interesting choice, but sure Sune at least has a method to it. So we'll see what Klaas has in this over. But yeah, it could be all finished if this goes for another 10.
4 in the ring on the offside. A lot of people out on the leg side boundary, and this is pulled at, missed. They're going to run through for a leg bye as the ball just rolled down into the slip region. And They pick up one more run. 16 needed from 17 brings Jones back on strike. So what have we got? Deep backward square leg, deep mid wicket, long on and long off. Those are our boundary riders. Fine leg and third are up inside the circle. There's a backward point cover extra. So 4 in the ring on the offside. Easy singles to be had on the leg side. England want to take them. Jones drives into the offside. This fumble at cover. Now this could be trouble. Throw comes in, a direct hit, and Jones would have been out. Instead, they're going to get back for a second run. The throw came in hard, and poor old Masabata Klaas, it whacked her on, I think, what might be the knee.
Oh, that looked like straight on the shin.
Shin, yeah.
Sniped on the shin. That looked really painful, but good running there from England. Switched on these two. Saw the throw, saw the overthrow, and came back for a 2 there. Oh, right on the knee.
Ow.
It's nearly ricocheted.
Needed to use her hands.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, oh, crikey, we just see the replay of that. Every time you see it, it makes me wince. Various parts of my body curl up in fear.
I shouldn't laugh, but that was quite funny.
Yes, actually, that's why you play cricket for a living, and I watch with a degree of sympathy. Ouch. Yes. That knee has been somewhat spifflicated as Klaas is in. 135 for 3. England need another 14. Down the wicket comes Sciver. She drags Jones, I should say. She drags the ball into the onside. Shy at the stumps from the keeper. Misses underarm.
That looked close. That. I don't know if she'd hit. That might have been out. Maybe it's just my angle here.
No, I think you're right. I think that would have been really close. Well, she didn't. She didn't take a. Oh yeah, she'd have been out by a metre or a yard and a little bit.
It's hard in that scenario. You kind of just let go of the ball straight away, and then you think, oh, I had a bit more time. It's hard to sort of think that in the moment. She picked it up nicely and just narrowly missed the stumps there.
13 needed off 15. Sciver back on strike. Klaas runs away from us from the pavilion end. Right arm over the wicket. A little reverse dab is expertly played by Sciver. And that's gone very fine indeed. Again through the slip region. There's nobody there with third up. And she picks up 4 more. Moves to 46 from the threshold of another half century in international cricket. And England now just need the 9 from 14 balls. I'm starting to wonder what on earth we're doing.
What a shot. That is an unbelievable shot. It's off middle and leg, I think. I remember getting hit by Sarah Taylor with one of those in the 100, and as a bowler you've got to walk back to your mark and think that is a really good shot.
She misses it. There's a big appeal for LBW, isn't there? Klaas in again. That's full. Slightly slower. Worked her way into the onside. Down to deep backward square leg. 1 more run to the total. 8 needed from 13. And Ismail and Khaka are in serious danger of, well, one of them perhaps not even bowling their 4th over. We've got our sums right, haven't we? That is what's left.
So Ismail definitely has 1 left.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. Looking on the board there. Jones on strike, last ball of the over. No change in field. In comes Klaas. Jones drives firmly. Oh, now there's a little hand on that. It's been hit back at the bowler. It's deflected onto the stumps. My instinct is that Sciver did get her bat back, but she's looking moderately guilty.
Yeah, she is. I'm not sure if she's made a ground.
Henry Moran next door has given it out. Quite how he can see from this angle. I certainly can't. Maybe his young, supple eyes are better than mine.
I think that's probably the only way you're getting that Sciver out at the moment.
It is, isn't it?
She's just starting to get all the tricks out with the reverse ramp, and I think...
Oh, it's out.
She's gone.
She's gone. She's gone. Umpire Moran is spot on. So that firmly hit drive back to the bowler. Klaas got her hands on it, and it deflected onto the stumps, and Sciver's got to go. She's not going to get a half century today. She's going to go for 47 from 41 balls run out in the most unfortunate way. But with England needing just 8 from the last 2 overs, it shouldn't make any difference to the result. It's Maia Bouchier, the mighty Bouch, walks out to bat, and Sciver receives a ripple of warm applause from this crowd.
Really good innings there from Nat Sciver. She's just coming in at the moment, and she's just navigating her way through any situation. Started at just going around the ball, and she was just starting to get going there, getting all the tricks out. And yeah, just really unlucky there. That must be the worst way to get out. I personally not go out that way.
Has it never happened to you?
No, I don't bat enough time. But I have gotten Elise Villani out like that in the KSL, and she had just hit me for a few fours, and yeah, managed just to sneak one through onto the stumps, and she was not best pleased. Probably went a bit large with the celebration as well, actually.
Well, you would do.
Yeah.
Why not?
She was absolutely boshing me around the Derbyshire County Cricket Club.
I think you're entitled to be insensibly delighted at that. A destructive player, Elise Villani. What colour was her hair that day? Can you remember?
I think well, she was playing for Loughborough Lightning, so maybe purple. I can't remember, to be honest.
She's
Or
sort of
bleach
colour-coded,
blonde.
isn't she?
Yeah.
Right, Shabnim Call Me Ismail is coming into bowl from the Diglis end with 1, 2, 3, 4 in the ring on the offside and a mid-wicket in place for Amy Jones. They've listened to you. But it's Bouchier on strike, and she dabs her first ball out to the covers. I think of a single, it isn't there. There's a little bit of a potential for a bit of pressure here, because Bouchier's at the striker's end. That's where Sciver was out at the last ball of the last over. And she's just got to find her feet here. She's got Jones at the other end, but a few dot balls from Ismail, one of the quickest bowlers in women's cricket. Runs in to Bouchier, bat raised, knees bent. She cuts this, but it's well fielded in the covers. They think of a single, it's not there.
That is really well fielded there. That would have released all the pressure. Maia Bouchier obviously hasn't played much T20 cricket for England. She'll be nervous coming in here. It's not a lot of runs, but that's a really good piece of fielding there.
It's class as well, you know. She's in the war. She's been smacked on the knee, and now she's wringing her hands because that was absolutely thumped by Bouchier.
Putting her body on the line for her team.
Ismail in again to Bouchier, and Bouchier slogs at this as mid-on is up. That's going to run away to the boundary for 4. Has a highly intelligent shot from Bouchier. She saw that mid-on was in. She gave herself a bit of room, cleared the front leg and swiped a cross-batted slog across the line, but she got it straight and over mid-on.
I think that was a slower ball from Ismail there. Yeah, it was a slower ball from Ismail, and Bouch just picked it up really nicely. Nice strong shot down the ground with mid-on up.
She managed not to lose her shape playing that shot, which is pretty tricky. Ismail in again, 4 more needed, and this will now be 3 as the ball's tucked into the onside. Leg side delivery on about at knee height. 3 needed from 8. Bouchier to 5 brings Jones on strike. At Chelmsford the other day, the crowd were begging the match to be finished with a 6. I'm trying to remember who it was on strike. It might have been Amy Jones actually, and she whacked it over long on, and it landed about a foot inside the boundary.
See if she can do it today.
She's on strike now, 3 needed. And she's pulled at this as a strapple, but it's not got much on it. It goes over the bowler's head and lands safely. Mid-on has to move to her left to field. 2 more needed from 7 balls. And England are closing in on victory. What would be their 5th white ball victory running would give them a lead of 12 points to 2. Unassailable lead, of course, in this series. But South Africa performed a bit better today. They've been a bit closer to England. As Ismail is in, 2 needed. Bouchier on strike. Bouchier pulls firmly in the air for 1 bounce 4, and that is it. England win in spectacular fashion. A short ball smashed away by Bouchier. England win by 6 wickets. It was a comprehensive win. South Africa closer to them today than they have been in any of the white ball games that these 2 sides have played in this series, but still England had plenty in the tank. Set up by their opening partnership, they got on with it nice and quickly. 4 consecutive 4s from Sophia Dunkley set the tone in the power play. Nat Sciver with 47, and another comprehensive win, Tash Barron.
Yeah, definitely. I think South Africa perform better there, and you know, they'll take some positives out of that. They'll be disappointed, obviously not to get the win, but there's still 1 more game to play, and both these teams really building towards the Commonwealth Games, but England just far too strong there, restricted them to a very gettable total and then knocked it off pretty comfortably. Maia Bouchier coming in and whacking 2 4s to hit the winning runs.
Well, that'll give her some confidence. She didn't get much opportunity in the last game. England running out comprehensive winners by 6 wickets. They now lead the series by 12 points to 2. Henry Moran. You've been watching all of that. So here on Sports Extra, we're just going to chew the cud briefly over what it is that we've just seen while Henry talks you through on 5 Live. Let me run you through the bowling figures. For England made 151 for 4. Shabnim, Ismail, 4 overs, none for 28. Ayabonga, Khaka, criminally underused, 3 overs, no maidens, 1 for 10. I'll come to that in a moment. Masabata, Klaas, 4 overs, 1 for 39. Chloe Tryon, 1 for 38 from 4. Delmi, 1 over for 11. And Anneke, Bosch, 3 overs, none for 23. England's top scorer, Sciver with 47, run out at the non-striker's end when the ball cannoned off Klaas onto the stumps with Sciver just an inch or two short of her crease. Danny Wyatt earlier made a 24-ball 39, Dunkley a 15-ball 23, Bryony Smith 10 from 11, and Maia Bouchier a couple of 4s in that 9 not out from 5 balls. But Tash Farron, once again, there may have been better performances from South Africa, certainly with the bat. Most notably Anneke Bosch and Lara Goodall compiling that splendid opening partnership 102. But then that innings fell away. You felt that they left maybe 15 to 20 runs out there. And then in the field, there are good individual performances. I thought Ismail bowled well. Ayabonga Khaka has been the pick of South Africa's bowlers in this white ball series. But she's bowled 3 overs, 1 for 10. And it's just basic, isn't it? You know, perhaps Bosch or Klaas might have had 5 or 6 runs to defend in the last over. Just put a bit of pressure on, and that opportunity wasn't there. They left Khaka for an over that she was never going to bowl.
Yeah, definitely. I think Khaka will be disappointed there not to get her final over. She's been bowling so well in the last T20 and also backed it up in this T20. So quite strange she didn't bowl out. It's tricky when you just keep losing and kind of bit of scrambled brains out there, which is kind of fair enough. You've got England coming at you. But I will say is Danny Wyatt and Sophia Dunkley, the way that they set up that innings, just went out there, struck the ball so well. I think Dunks hit 4 4s in a row. They sort of broke the back of that total. And then obviously you've got the experience of Sciver coming in and just steadying the ship and getting them over the line. But yeah, some positives for South Africa, just a shame they slightly didn't get their bowlers right at the back end there.
Alice Capsey made her debut today. We didn't get to see her with the bat. She only bowled the 1 over, but even in that time she managed to pick up an international wicket off her second ball. She could have had another when Katherine Brunt nearly pulled off a spectacular catch at long on. She'll presumably be given another chance. We'd like to see Freya Kemp, do we think, the last game? I mean, with England such a massive lead, she's in the Commonwealth Games squad. We'd expect to have a little look at her, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously they'll want to take this series and whitewash South Africa. With the Commonwealth Games coming up, it'll be interesting to see if they give the likes of Freya Kemp an opportunity. We'll see what England do with their selection for the next game. But I mean, England look in a really strong place at the moment. Obviously South Africa haven't been at their best, but England have been really good and they've been ruthless with their performances and just not letting South Africa in at all. They're building really nicely for the Commonwealth Games to try and take that gold medal over the Aussies.
Now, just a very quick, before we leave, quick word on Katherine Brunt. You know, if Alice Capsey plays for as long as Katherine Brunt has played, or plays to the age that Katherine Brunt is now, Hypercourse on Twitter pointed this out to me, she'll be still playing in the year 2042, which is, I'll be 73 years old then. I'm feeling quite old as it is. That wasn't a fact I particularly liked, but the reason I mentioned that is because today Katherine Brunt went past Anya Shrubsole's record of 102 wickets in T20 cricket to be England's leading wicket taker in this format. And again, on a pitch that was not very responsive for quick bowlers, she was supreme once more, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was. She's just incredible. Every time she plays for England, she seems to add to the team in some sort of way. And she obviously missed that Test match, having retired from Test matches, and only played in one of those ODIs. But she just looks so good. She's so accurate. She's obviously still got the pace, and then she's got all the tricks to go with it, with the back of the hand, slower ball, the Yorker. And she should be so proud of herself. She is just an unbelievable performer for England cricket, and she'll keep going. She keeps performing, and she should keep going because she is winning games for England.
Well, she'll have a chance in the Commonwealth Games to get a medal round her neck. You can see the highlights of all this on the iPlayer at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. There's some spectacular moments. There's nearly catches, some wonderful sixes, some great shots from Sophia Dunkley.